Chapter 603. Chapter 603 kills in all directions. All these people were the elites among the elites of various forces. And these elites were slaughtering at a very fast speed. The experts of Devil Race had cleverly planned an ambush in order to catch the disciples of the true Martial University off guard. However, they hadn't been able to withstand them for a long time, and had soon been forced to retreat little by little in defeat. The experts of the true Martial University attacked one after another. A large group of devils got defeated in the first attack. Yi Shiwen could see that the scores on the merit list were increasing frantically. Yi Shiwen obviously couldn't just sit back and watch other people fighting and killing. So, he also went all out. However, he hadn't killed much when those devils who had been running rampant just a moment ago got wiped out completely. Not a single one was left. Yi Shiwen had obtained merely around 200 points in the first round of the clash. That's because the ones that he had killed were merely the unorganized semi-sage devils. However, he was in no hurry. This is just the beginning. They'll let the others run rampant. They'll just get hold of a great sage-level devil, and kill him to leave everyone in the dust. There had been a huge crowd at the entrance of the devil world not too long ago. However, there wasn't anyone here now. Most of the experts had already flown towards the depths of this world. Yi Ziwen's face exposed a trace of smile. After all, this place was his home ground. Yi Shiwen flew into the sky of the devil world. He felt as if a sword was scraping off his body as bursts of devil wind brushed against him. The fact was that the astral wind of the true martial world was nothing in comparison to the devil wind of the devil world. The astral wind was just like a breeze in comparison. They were entirely different. The living environment of the devil world was very nasty. Therefore, its inhabitants, the devil, were far more sturdy than the humans. Human! A big hand suddenly swept over from the sky. The claw immediately grabbed and smashed the void. It seemed as if it would definitely grab and kill Yi Shiwen. It was clear from the aura being emitted from this big hand that it was a devil beast of sage accomplished realm. It had been hiding inside the devil clouds, and had planned to kill Yi Shiwen with a single fatal blow. However, Yi Shiwen didn't even look at it. Endless rays of light emitted from his palms, and proliferated in the surroundings in an instant. The entire sky suddenly got illuminated by these rays of light. Then, the devil clouds burst open, and a devil beast screamed as it got killed. It couldn't even injure Yi Shiwen. Then, its blood essence got entirely absorbed by the heavenly source mirror. Consequently, Yi Shiwen could feel that the heavenly source mirror had become a bit stronger once again. He had killed this beast. However, it didn't mean that other devil beasts wouldn't attack him. On the contrary, an increasing number of beasts appeared in the surroundings. They weren't real devils. Instead, they were the devil beasts that had just been living inside the devil world. They were locally born and bred in the devil world. They were similar to the demon beasts born in the true martial world. It was just that these beasts used to feed on the devil energy. The real members of Devil Race were as civilized as humans. They even had their own countries and cities. Moreover, they also had a devil army. They were very dreadful. The devil beasts here were nothing in comparison to them. The humans had the dominance in the true martial world. Similarly, the devil race dominated the devil world. Yemo had already made Yi Shiwen aware of these things. Yemo was an old monster whose age couldn't be predicted. It could be said that he knew these things inside out. Several demon beasts of Sage Realm had already gathered in the surroundings. They had been attracted by the fluctuations caused by the battle at this place. Their speed was extremely quick. It was far beyond the imagination of an ordinary person. They were several times more dangerous than the demon beasts present in the true martial world. These demon beasts were just ordinary beasts of Sage Realm, and one couldn't get too many points by killing them. However, they were huge in quantity. So, it was much easier to find them as compared to the devil beasts of half-step Great Sage Realm. Inverting Ocean Seal! Yi Shiwen formed a hand seal. Then, the inverting ocean seal surged through the sky, and overwhelmingly fell down in torrents. Those devil beasts who had been approaching whilst issuing bizarre screams couldn't resist such an attack. They immediately got annihilated and reduced to bits. After that, Yishuan once again checked his points. He found that he had suddenly gained several hundred points. Consequently, his ranking had also increased all of a sudden. It had reached the 10,000s. However, it was still useless as more than 10,000 people were still ahead of him, and more than 100,000 people were chasing him. Moreover, he would slide down hundreds and hundreds of names if he showed even a bit of laziness. However, he still wasn't in a hurry. It was just that this was the most intense time. There wouldn't be so much chaos once the rankings got stabilized. Those devils are very dangerous. However, this naturally applies only to the other people. They are simply nothing for you, Emo said. The heavenly source mirror itself is the divine tool of the devil race's great monarch. So, it's naturally a bane for those of devil race. In fact, you're the next generation king of the devil race as long as you have the heavenly source mirror. And they're just like your slaves. Emo was very excited after having returned to the devil world. The devils were just like a group of slaves for him. They were simply nothing. Yishuan nodded. It wasn't wrong to say that the devil world was like his home ground. After all, the heavenly source mirror could restrain the powers of the devils. He could currently contend against an expert of intermediate stage of half-step great sage realm among the human experts if he pushed it. However, he didn't need to be worried even if he came across an expert of late stage of half-step great sage realm as far as the experts of the devil race were concerned. Yishuan continued to fly into the depths of the devil world whilst slaughtering. The more he penetrated into the depths of the devil world, the more devil experts he came across, and the more wantonly he killed. He had killed dozens or even hundreds of semi-sage experts of devil race so far. These areas should be the outskirts of the devil world. Many tyrannical devil beasts are lurking here. Even the experts of devil race may not be too willing to come to this kind of place. Generally, only the juniors of the devil race come here to hone their skills. It's true that many tyrannical devil beasts are lurking here. However, they aren't concentrated enough to be worried about. You must catch up with those people. Killing devil beasts isn't beneficial, Emo suggested. After all, devil world was his place. It was like he had come back to his home after he had come to the devil world. Yishuan flew further into the depths whilst Emo spoke. Yishuan didn't need to conceal the devil energy within his devil wings this time. He found that his speed had increased by 1/3 after the cloak of his divinities got removed from his wings. His devil wings were giving a great performance in the devil world. So, it could be said that they too had returned to their home. Some of the movements that had been quite difficult to make in the true martial world had become very easy here. Suddenly, a group of great devil soldiers arrived from afar whilst flapping their bat wings behind their bodies. Their eyes shone as they saw Yishuan coming from the front. A blood light flashed in their eyes. It seemed as if they considered Yishuan as a blood and flesh cuisine. Yishuan saw that these great devil soldiers had worn armors, and were holding iron spears in their hands. They looked like trained soldiers. Each one of them was a powerful great devil of sage realm. They were headed by a young leader who turned out to be an expert of initial stage of half-step great sage realm. They weren't like those scattered devil beasts on the outskirts. Yishuan recalled what Emo had told him earlier. This great devil clan was also one of the 8 noble clans of the devil race. Their population was huge. It was the largest among the 8 noble clans. People would visualize them whenever they thought of the devil race. The great devils had a huge population. So, they were often used as the main force as well as cannon fodder among all the devil armies of devil race that went on expedition in other worlds. Consequently, every world had legends about the great devils. These great devil soldiers were just patrolling. However, they were already at the sage realm. After all, experts below sage realm didn't have any status in the devil world. They were just considered as commoners and slaves. Yishuan hadn't thought much when those great devil soldiers suddenly attacked him. All of them were well-trained soldiers. So, they were moving in a battle formation. They were merely at the sage realm. However, they could display the fighting prowess of half-step great sage level if they fought together. Therefore, people didn't underestimate them. The young squad leader of these great devils rushed straight over. Then, his claws swept out in rhythm. This was an incredible martial art. He was just a patrol leader in the devil army. However, he would be considered as an elite if placed in the true martial world. In fact, he could even be ranked among the core disciples. You're a courageous human. You're just at the sage great perfection realm. But you've still dared to penetrate deep into the devil world. Foo. You don't know the profoundness of the world. You can only become my meal. That great devil squad leader looked exceptionally sinister as he opened his mouth wide like a sacrificial bull. Those great devil soldiers also arrived, fluttering their bat wings behind him. They were moving in accordance with their leader, and had a very good coordination with him. They spread across like a huge net, and advanced towards Yishuan to capture him. Yishuan sneered, "These great devil soldiers are treating me as an ordinary expert. They dared to jump in front of me? They're courting death." Yi Zaiwen's big hand suddenly stretched out with the vigor of a dragon and the ferocity of a tiger. It was the Control Crane's 7 divine hands. The people of the law enforcement hall might have been scared to death if they had seen it. After all, this was Mu Xingjie's technique. And it had appeared in Yi Zaiwen's hand now. Yi Shiwen obviously wasn't as proficient in this technique as Mu Xingjie was. In fact, there might even be some flaws in his technique. However, this didn't stop him from using the Control Crane's 7 divine hands on that young great devil leader. Bang! 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 Yi Shiwen and the great devil leader exchanged 100 blows in an instant. Ah! The young great devil leader screamed as both of his hands got exploded and transformed into a mass of blood fog. Then that blood fog got absorbed by the heavenly source mirror. How is this possible? You're just a human. The eyes of the young great devil leader opened wide. He looked at Yi Shiwen incredulously. He couldn't believe this. The great devil clan wasn't known for their physiques. And they couldn't even be compared with the people of Azura clan who had tank-like bodies. However, their bodies must still be much stronger than those of the human experts. It wasn't that the young great devil leader hadn't killed any outstanding human experts. He had killed a few senior human experts in the previous Devil World competition. And his martial power had increased significantly after he had swallowed their blood essence. He had then smoothly made the breakthrough into half-step Great Sage realm. He had gotten to know the benefits of harvesting human experts. Therefore, he had hurriedly carried his soldiers, and arrived to intercept the human experts after the Devil World competition had started this time. He had thought that he could once again reap big benefits. However, who could have imagined that he would come across Yishuan, a god of death? Yishuan sneered, and suddenly attacked once again with the Control Crane's 7 divine hands. Bang! The young great devil leader screamed as he got slapped to death. The heavenly source mirror emitted bursts of scarlet luster from inside Yi Zaiwen's body. The vitality of that young great devil leader got absorbed, and left nothing behind. It then transformed into the real elemental energy. This was the primary source of Yi Zaiwen's energy. Finally, the real elemental energy entered into Yi Zaiwen's body, and got assimilated by him. And his blood essence got entirely absorbed by the heavenly source mirror. To be continued. There weren't many forces that had good relations with the true martial university. In fact, the majority of them were sworn enemies of the true martial university. It wasn't known how many predecessors had died on both sides during the decline of the true martial university. So, it could be said that their enmity was as deep as the ocean. Some people didn't have good eyes. After all, they had set out towards Yishuan. They considered him just an ordinary expert of sage great perfection realm. Therefore, they had collaborated to deal with him. However, Yishuan wasn't merciful either. So, anyone who attacked him got slaughtered. The ranking on the merit list had become stable along with the passage of time. The top 100 positions belonged to the powerful experts of the late stage of half-step Great Sage realm. The top 50 positions belonged to the well-known figures among those experts. And the top 20 positions belonged to those experts who had the reputation of being able to escape from the hands of experts of initial stage of great sage realm. One could make out the strong and weak people from the merit list. It mightn't be accurate. But those who had acquired the top 100 positions were undoubtedly extremely tyrannical people. Yi Shiwen had killed for several days, and he could also be considered as hard-working. However, the rankings showed that he was extremely far from others. He wasn't even ranked among the top 1,000 people. He had merely broken into the top 10,000 people. He was presently a non-entity in this competition. The sky turned dark on Yi Zaiwen's 5th day in the Devil World. Strange yelling sounds came from the black clouds. The sound was ear-piercing sharp. One could tell that they were calf-sized owls by taking a closer look. These owls were considered as a weak devil species in other worlds. However, each one of them had a cultivation of semi-sage level in the Devil World. In fact, there were also many sage-level owls among them. These sage-level owls were leading the group. It would have been a dead end for even a top-notch expert of late stage of half-step great sage realm if they had come across such a massive flock of owls. In fact, they wouldn't have dared to mess with them. However, this wasn't because these owls were extremely powerful. Instead, it was because their number was way too much. They were simply endless. However, a figure was shuttling inside this group of owls, and a golden light was flashing again and again. A large chunk of owls got killed by this golden light every time it flashed. Yi Zaiwen's expression was solemn and stern, and his hand was moving continuously. He unceasingly bombarded all kinds of martial arts techniques on a whim. It could be said that he was casually butchering them. In fact, it had become impossible for those owls to approach Yi Zaiwen's body. They couldn't even reach close to his body, and got killed by the divinities that were protecting it. Everything that was related to the devils was born from the darkest, most sinister, and most negative energy of the world. However, Yi Zaiwen's divinities had been extracted from the descendants of gods. Therefore, these divinities were the brightest, most honest, and most positive yang energy. These divinities were simply a bane for these devils. Moreover, their cultivation level was far more inferior to that of Yi Shiwen. Therefore, it was impossible for them to even approach his body. The flesh of these owls got absorbed by the heavenly source mirror after they got killed by Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen could feel that the heavenly source mirror wasn't far from making a breakthrough. It differed by just a foot from becoming a great sage tool. However, this separation of 1 foot in heavenly source mirror's promotion was as massive as a moat before one's eyes. Still, this was good enough. After all, an ordinary sage tool usually didn't get an opportunity to evolve into a great sage tool. This was why even some great sages were still using sage tools. Yi Shiwen simply didn't give importance to these owls even though many experts feared them. He had been killing them casually. He could instantly absorb this rich devil energy at any time to replenish his real elemental energy. Therefore, it was impossible to think that he would die because of exhausting his real elemental energy. So it could be said that the thing that other people were avoiding was simply nothing for him. In fact, he was taking advantage of these owls to hone his martial arts since they couldn't injure him. Yi Shiwen reduced the myriads of owls into a small group in a day's time. One couldn't make out from afar, but he had indeed killed a terrifying number of owls. Countless sage experts were unceasingly flying across at a distant place. They were streaking across the sky just like a group of lights. It was the Devil World. However, how could Yi Shiwen not have become excited when he looked at these experts? These people must be more dangerous than the devils. Where are these people going? Yi Shiwen became somewhat curious after he noticed that all these experts were flying in the same direction. Therefore, he decided to end using these owls to train, and quickly followed them. He then saw that several hundred experts had gathered in a mountain range. The voices of several experts came from the surrounding. Does this place truly have magic crystal or deposits? This news can't be fake. It has already created a big commotion. It's not clear how many experts have already arrived here. Haha. Haha, then it's awesome. We'll become very rich if we can obtain just one magic crystal or deposit. After all, we can convert it into spirit stone or deposits after we return. We can become rich in one fell swoop if we obtain even one such ore. Yeah. Half of it may get acquired by the university after conversion. However, the rest would be ours, and that would also be a big profit. Where can one get such a good opportunity in the true martial world? After all those spirit stone or deposits have already been divided by the big forces amongst themselves. So, there's no way that we're going to obtain them. Yi Shiwen was startled. So, they've arrived here for the magic crystal or deposits. Ordinary martial cultivators depended on spirit stones in the true martial world. And the spirit stones were usually extracted from the spirit stone or deposits. The cultivators of devil race in the devil world were dependent upon the magic crystals for their cultivation. And these magic crystals were extracted from the magic crystal or deposits. These magic crystals could also be converted into spirit stones with the help of some methods, just like Yi Shiwen could convert the devil energy with the help of heavenly source mirror. In fact, every big force had similar methods for converting magic crystals into spirit stones. It was just that they could only achieve it with the help of large-scale matrix formations. They couldn't accomplish it alone like Yi Shiwen could. The spirit stones weren't considered as very valuable. However, they could become precious if the amount was huge. For example, one miniature spirit stone or deposit could be worth as much as 100 million primary spirit dawn. Yi Zaiwen's eyes shone as he heard this. He had already obtained 7 billion primary spirit dawn after he had sold his heavenly treasures as well as seized 700 million primary spirit dawn from young Master Jin Xiu. However, he had already consumed 500 million primary spirit dawn from that kitty when he had made the breakthrough into the Sage Great Perfection realm. The remaining 2 billion primary spirit dawn might seem like a big amount. However, it was far from enough as far as Yi Shiwen was concerned. The Star Colossus Avatar had restored its fighting prowess to the intermediate stage of Great Sage Realm. Consequently, its consumption of primary spirit dawn had reached to an astronomical figure. It would consume at least 500 million primary spirit dawn for fighting just once. Therefore, 2 billion primary spirit dawn could only support it to fight twice. That's why it could be said that Yi Zaiwen's stock of primary spirit dawn was far from enough. The Blood Slave had already integrated into the Star Colossus Avatar. And it would completely replace the Star Colossus soul one day in the future. There wouldn't be any need to consume such huge amount of primary spirit dawn in order to make the Star Colossus set out after the Blood Slave completely merged with the Star Colossus body and gained enormous strength. However, Yi Shiwen believed that it was still worth it. After all, it would have been impossible for him to control the Star Colossus Avatar if he didn't have the Blood Slave. This trump card of his was bound to be not so easy to use. So, how could he not have become excited on seeing the magic crystal or deposits in front of him? Other people would need to take these ores to their respective sects in order to convert them into spirit stones. However, Yi Shiwen could absorb them directly. This would obviously spare him the needless troubles. The entire mountain range was already under a barrage of attacks by the time Yi Shiwen arrived. Several experts were displaying their remarkable skills. All kinds of martial arts moves were fiercely exploding in the sky. Bang! The entire mountain suddenly exploded, and chunks of magic crystal or deposits splashed out. However, 3 huge magic crystal or deposits also flew out along with these chunks. These 3 huge magic crystal or deposits would be considered as miniature magic crystal or deposits. However, that was in comparison to the other larger magic crystal or deposits. The fact was that these 3 were of the size of a small hill. They were extremely huge. Everyone's eyes suddenly popped out with greed. In fact, nobody even looked towards those chunks of magic crystal or deposits. It must be said that those chunks of magic crystal or deposits were also quite valuable. However, how could they be compared with those 3 miniature magic crystal or deposits? Even one of those 3 miniature magic crystal or deposits was worth 100 million primary spirit dawn. And this amount of money could be compared to the wealth of a common great sage expert. So, one could become rich overnight. They could rise above their competitors if they obtained even one such or deposit. Consequently, their chances of advancing to the great sage realm would also start to look promising. These people generally couldn't obtain such or deposits. That's because they would be seized either by the major forces or by the great sages. In fact, these people wouldn't even get a chance to have a look at it. Yi Shiwen saw that countless big hands made of spirit energies had extended towards those 3 magic crystal or deposits in the sky in order to grab them. However, he still wasn't in any hurry. He first went to grab those chunks of magic crystal or deposits that had exploded out. Those chunks of magic crystal or deposits were far inferior to those hill-sized deposits of magic crystal or deposits, when considered in their individual value. However, they seemed quite valuable when their large quantity was taken into account. To be continued. Chapter 605. Chapter 605, There's an ambush. A few other experts had the same idea that Yi Shiwen had. However, how could they be a match for him? Those chunks of magic crystal or deposits were grabbed by Yi Ziwen's big hand in a moment's effort. Yi Shiwen counted. It wasn't much. However, he had still collected at least 30 million primary spirit dawn worth of ore deposits. It must be said that Yi Shiwen had an all-or-welcome approach regarding these things. However, the scene still became chaotic. Boy, you're courting death. Hand over those magic crystal or deposits. More than a dozen sage experts surrounded Yi Shiwen not long after. They had the same idea as Yi Shiwen had. All of them had thought of taking advantage of this opportunity, and taking away these magic crystal or deposits. These deposits weren't as valuable as those 3 miniature magic crystal or deposits. However, they were still enough to make them rich overnight. They were headed by an expert of sage accomplished realm. This man also had 2 sage great perfection level experts by his side. The rest of the experts were at sage small perfection level. So, this team had tyrannical strength. That was why they had dared to think about this matter. However, they hadn't even set out when all the chunks of the magic crystal or deposits got snatched away by Yi Shiwen. It must be said that Yi Ziwen's speed was extremely fast. These experts had been fascinated by the huge wealth that they could have made from those magic crystal or deposits. Therefore, they hadn't paid attention when Yi Shiwen had displayed his super speed and obtained those scattered chunks of magic crystal or deposits. These experts didn't even wait for Yi Ziwen's reply after they gave him a warning. They attacked immediately. The surrounding air exploded just like firecrackers. It got exploded by them just like magma. That head expert of sage accomplished realm attacked with full confidence. After all, he believed that Yi Shiwen was just an ordinary sage great perfection level expert. Therefore, he felt that it was impossible for Yi Shiwen to turn out to be a match for him. A spear streaked across the vast sky just like a dragon, and instantly arrived in front of Yi Shiwen. That expert of sage accomplished level expert laughed when he found that Yi Shiwen hadn't even responded. That's because he felt that he would bring down Yi Shiwen with just one spear attack. Therefore, his laughter was particularly sinister. However, Yi Shiwen finally responded in that crucial moment. The golden light flashed. His big hand transformed into a sword, and went up to tackle the incoming spear. Clang! A loud metal clanging sound was heard. It shook all directions just like the pitch of a big bell. The sound waves produced by it projected out just like arrows. The scene looked incomparably dreadful. Ah! That expert of sage accomplished realm screamed. Both of his hands had been exploded by the tremendous force, and transformed into a mass of blood fog. The fragments of his bones swirled in the air. The spear also shattered into pieces even though it was a sage tool. It had certainly looked like an incomparably strong sage tool. However, it had broken down into pieces just like crumbled paper under just one strike from Yi Shiwen. Then, Yi Shiwen lifted his leg, and kicked that expert of sage accomplished realm on the middle of his chest. A loud crunch sound was heard, and all the bones of that expert got crushed. Simultaneously, his body transformed into a streamer of light, and was sent flying like a kite with broken string. His body eventually broke into the sky over the group of mountains. However, this was place wherein a fierce struggle was going on between the top experts. Bang! It wasn't clear which half-step great sage expert had attacked that sage accomplished realm expert. However, that sage accomplished realm expert had been grasped and transformed into a mass of blood fog. Consequently, those sage experts who had been planning to attack Yi Shiwen suddenly froze. They stood in the sky in a daze. They were dumbstruck. The situation had looked good a few moments ago. However, it had reversed within a snap of a finger. Their leader of sage accomplished realm had been sent out flying, and then killed by someone. They were left dumbstruck. There was no way they would rush over in the present situation. After all, wouldn't that be courting death? They quickly dispersed like frightened animals. After all, they had arrived here to become wealthy, not to throw away their lives. Yi Shiwen also didn't want to kill each one of them unnecessarily. So, he entered the battle for those 3 miniature magic crystal ore deposits instead. Those 3 huge magic crystal ore deposits emitted bursts of devil energy in the sky. Several experts had been avoiding the devil energy initially. However, they looked very comfortable with it at this time. After all, they had gotten an opportunity to possess huge wealth now. The several experts had been unceasingly fighting with each other. Meanwhile, the 3 magic crystal ore deposits were still floating in the sky. Nobody had seized them yet. After all, anyone who would try to set out would have to face the surprise raids of several other experts. Yi Shiwen shot a glance, and realized that the current situation at the battlefield was very intense. The ordinary sage experts didn't dare to even go close to the battlefield. After all, only the top experts of half-step Great Sage Realm were participating in this contest. 3 experts among this lot were in the intermediate stage of half-step Great Sage Realm. And the remaining 8 experts belonged to the initial stage of half-step Great Sage Realm. All of them were extremely tyrannical. An ordinary person obviously couldn't contend against them. Yi Shiwen didn't care too much about those experts of initial stage of half-step Great Sage Realm. His focus was on those 3 experts of intermediate stage of half-step Great Sage Realm. One among those 3 experts was a gray-haired old man. He was baby-faced. The second one was a middle-aged expert. And the last one was an unusually seductive woman. Let's do it like this. We are 3 people. So, let's divide these 3 magic crystal ore deposits, 1 for each of us. There's no need to struggle, that middle-aged expert of intermediate stage of half-step Great Sage Realm said. All those 3 individuals shot a glance at each other. There will be no need to fight if each of us got a magic crystal ore deposit. Moreover, it would eliminate the possibility of someone arbitrarily entering the contest and snatching away these ores from under our noses. Therefore, this is the best way. The other 2 experts also thought about it. There are so many people. So, it's obviously impossible for a single person to keep all 3 magic crystal ore deposits. However, these 8 experts of the initial stage of half-step Great Sage Realm won't be a match for the 3 of us. They wouldn't be able to do anything even if they will be dissatisfied with the fact that 3 of us took all the magic crystal ore deposits. The 8 experts of initial stage of half-step Great Sage Realm became very unhappy. They had also gone through a massacre. So, why shouldn't they get any benefits? Why should everything fall into the hands of these 3 individuals? However, they also knew that these 3 individuals' strength was far above theirs. And they might not be a match for these 3 individuals even if the 8 of them fought together. However, they became unwilling to give up when they realized that the opportunity that could make them rich overnight was about to go out of their hands. 100 million primary spirit dawn might only be the icing on the cake for Yi Shiwen. However, it was an astronomical wealth for these experts. Let's fight. Why should the magic crystal ore deposits only be theirs? A senior expert of initial stage of half-step Great Sage Realm resentfully said. Then, his big hand made of energy stretched out, and went towards one of the magic crystal ore deposits to grab it. However, he heard 3 loud shouts before he could grab those 3 magic crystal or deposits. Then, 3 big hands fell down on him. This expert of initial stage of half-step Great Sage Realm had seemed awe-inspiring until now. However, he got blasted away with ease, and his body nearly exploded as a result. The gap between the initial stage of half-step Great Sage Realm and the intermediate stage of half-step Great Sage Realm was already quite big. However, there were 3 intermediate stage experts against 1 initial stage expert in this situation. Therefore, that expert of initial stage of half-step Great Sage Realm had nearly gotten exploded in just 1 strike. Those few experts of initial stage of half-step Great Sage Realm had been prepared to jump into the fight. However, they got deterred by this event. They had thought that they might be able to win by taking advantage of all the chaos. However, that feeling died out. It had become clear to them that these 3 experts of intermediate stage of half-step Great Sage Realm wouldn't let them win by taking advantage of the chaos. He was overreaching himself. That middle-aged expert of intermediate stage of half-step Great Sage Realm coldly snorted. Then, he said in a somewhat disdainful manner, "Whoosh!" A burst of howling devil wind blew from afar. Then, dozens of streamers of light descended from the sky. The expressions of these human experts drastically changed when they noticed that the weakest among these streamers of light were the experts of initial stage of half-step Great Sage Realm. In fact, there was no shortage of top experts of late stage of half-step Great Sage Realm among them. However, the most important thing was that these weren't the auras of humans. They were emitting the devil energy of the devil race. This is bad. It's a surprise attack of the devils. That baby-faced expert's complexion changed. The devil world wasn't their territory. So, they were mostly afraid of coming across an ambush of devils in the devil world. And that's because it would be nearly impossible for them to escape if that happened. It would be a dead end for them. Therefore, these experts preferred to act in groups. After all, this was the only way they could escape if they got surrounded by the devils in the devil world. They absolutely wouldn't be able to escape alone. They had already released their divine senses when they had been fighting here. And there hadn't been any sign of unusual movements within the radius of 1,000 miles. That's why they had been fighting on such a grand scale. However, they hadn't expected that these devils would arrive in the blink of an eye. This ambush couldn't be compared with the heavy ambush that Yi Shiwen had come across earlier. However, these dozens of devils were certainly a bigger threat than those troops. And that's because each of these devils was an elite in the devil race. These devil clansmen had arrived in front of everyone in an instant. A young devil expert suddenly dropped from the clouds while carrying a stunning aura. He was the leader of this group. His entire body was covered with layer upon layer of scales. Also, a pair of giant flesh wings could be seen behind his body. He looked quite sinister as a result. These devils looked a bit similar to the great devils. The great devils. However, their auras had countless times more grandeur than those great devils. It seemed as if the traits of all the devils whom Yi Shiwen had seen up until now could be found on the bodies of these devils. Yi Shiwen suddenly remembered what Yemo had mentioned to him once. This was one of the 8 noble clans of the devil world, original devil clan. This was the original devil clan of the devil race. They were the source of all the devils if the rumors about them were to be believed. All the devils had split up from the original devils. The original devil clan had always been the first ancestors of the entire devil race. They were considered as very arrogant. After all of the devils had originated from the original devil clan. No wonder why Yi Shiwen felt as if he could sense the reflections of all other devil clans on the bodies of these devils. There was a period of time back in the day when Yemo had been encouraging Yi Shiwen to enter the devil world. Yemo had vowed that he would cultivate Yi Shiwen as the next devil king, and lead the devil world to conquer all of the 10,000 worlds. Yi Shiwen hadn't agreed. But he had come to know about many matters of the devil world from Yemo. An ordinary human might not be able to recognize the original devil clan. It was because the devil world never dispatched its true power to deal with the true martial world. In fact, Only the great devil clan was dispatched from the devil world to attack the true martial world. This was because the great devil clan had a massive population, and was considered as the main force of the devil race. Therefore, many people in the true martial world had the impression of devil race as great devils. They had no idea about the original devil clan. It was quite mysterious among the 8 noble clans. Yemo naturally confirmed Yi Zaiwen's guess at once. "It's the original devil clan," Yemo said. "These original devils are still as annoying as ever." Everyone apart from Yi Shiwen was left dumbstruck. Another 10 or so tyrannical experts of half-step Great Sage realm arrived after the young expert of the original devil clan. Moreover, there wasn't only the original devil clan. The Great Devil clan and a few other smaller clans were also there. All of these devils were extremely intrepid, without any exception. They were the elites in the same realm. A human expert screamed loudly. He then turned around and flew away. However, he hadn't escaped yet when a big hand suddenly split open the sky. This hand then caught that sage expert high up in the sky, exploded him, and transformed him into a mass of blood fog. To be continued. Chapter 606. Chapter 606. A heavy slap on his face. There was a pin-drop silence. Only the miserable scream of that expert who had been running away could be heard at the moment. "Humans are very weak. Are all of you like this scaredy cat?" that young leader of the original devil clan said somewhat disdainfully. He didn't pay attention to that expert who had been running away. The blood of that expert was dripping from his fingertips. He had attacked and smashed that human expert a moment ago. His tone was mocking. It was full of disdain for humans. The original devil clan was considered a very arrogant clan among the devil clans. They even looked down upon other devil clans. And these humans were like weak sheep in their opinion. Everyone was terrified. These people were considered as elites among the forces of true martial world. However, they became scared when they saw this young expert of original devil clan casually grabbing and killing that sage expert. The young expert of original devil clan didn't conceal his wild and bloody aura. His strength was unfathomable. He was just a foot away from entering the great sage realm. In fact, he could become a peerless great sage expert. Everyone searched through their memories, and came to a realization that there was hardly any person below great sage realm in their knowledge who could be a match for him. He must be a heaven's pride expert among the devil experts, and the most terrifying one at that. Let's say that everyone was divided into 3 ranks: ordinary ones, elites, and heaven's pride experts. Then, these people would be truly terrified whilst determining the level of this young devil expert who was present before their eyes. These experts were elites. There was hardly any match for them among their peers. However, they weren't heaven's pride experts. Only a heaven's pride expert was truly invincible. Only a heaven's pride expert could contend against another heaven's pride expert in the same realm. It would be a dead end for ordinary experts if they came across a heaven's pride expert. Moreover, these people and that young expert of the original devil clan weren't in the same realm. Even the strongest person among these people differed by a level from that young expert of original devil clan. This meant that this young leader alone could slaughter all of these human experts. Moreover, there were dozens of senior experts of half-step great sage realm behind him, and each one of them was an elite. Yi Shiwen had a much clearer look than these people. He could spot another heaven's pride expert among them. A heaven's pride expert of Azura clan was hidden among those devil experts. His aura looked valiant. It mustn't be much weaker than the aura of that young expert of the original devil clan. However, what made Yi Shiwen surprised was the fact that this heaven's pride expert of Azura clan was a subordinate of that young expert of original devil clan. This wasn't something an ordinary individual could achieve. Heaven's pride experts were 1 in 100 million. They were chosen by the heaven. Every person that became a heaven's pride expert was proud and arrogant. They were unruly and untamed. Each of them wanted to rise to the peak. So, making a heaven's pride expert one's subordinate was as difficult as ascending to the heaven. Let's consider the case of Chao Yuyu and Mu Xingjie. There was a difference of many years between them. Their strength also differed enormously. So it wasn't strange that Chao Yu followed Mu Xingjie. However, the people who could force someone of the same realm to work as a follower were extremely rare. Therefore, it was clearly visible that young expert of original Devil clan was extremely terrifying. This group of young experts of Devil race had arrived together to block these human experts. They didn't have a dominant position in terms of numbers against these human experts. However, Yishiwen still felt that this whole situation was like overkill. After all, even a handful of these devil experts could wipe out all of the human experts gathered here. Yishiwen couldn't help but frown as he thought of this. These devil experts were very difficult to deal with. Even Yishiwen would have no choice but to escape whilst facing these experts if he didn't summon the Star Colossus avatar. Everyone was trembling with fear. However, nobody dared to turn around and escape. After all, they had already seen what had happened to that expert who had tried to escape just a moment ago. So, what would happen if they also turned around and tried to escape? Your Majesty, Mo Tian has made a clever scheme. You've attracted these silly humans by using just a few miniature magic crystal ore deposits. An expert of Devil race who was behind his leader, original Devil Mo Tian, complimented him. The other devil experts also agreed one after another. They simply looked down on these human experts. They believed that these human experts were just like meat placed on the chopping board. They could kill them whenever they wanted. The complexions of most of the human experts turned a deep shade of red with anger. However, they couldn't do anything since they were too weak. It wasn't that there wasn't any powerful expert among all the human experts of the universe. However, there surely wasn't any such expert present here. They had been thinking of these devil races as their prey before they had arrived here. They had believed that the devil world was their hunting ground where they could run amok. But who would have imagined that they themselves would become the prey in the end? That they would be considered as meat placed on chopping board, that they could be slaughtered on a whim. Unfortunately, there isn't enough time to attract real human geniuses, Mo Tian said, somewhat dejected. These human experts are extremely audacious. They consider our devil world as their hunting ground. It's truly ridiculous. They hardly realize that they are just sheep in front of us. Never mind. Well, find those Heaven's Pride experts of human race, and challenge them after we've killed this lot. I'll return to closed-door training, and make the breakthrough into Great Sage Realm after I've devoured one such human expert. I'll attain a higher status in my clan after that. Mo Tian's words didn't contain contempt for these experts. On the contrary, he considered them as his bloody meal. He believed that his martial power would skyrocket after he devoured them. The vitalities of these experts were very rich. It was true for any devil that their martial power would rise enormously after they swallowed this vitality. It was just like how the human experts would progress after they absorbed the demon cores of the demon beasts. Nothing was impossible. Fu *K, let's fight with them. An expert couldn't help but shout out loud. These devils considered them as a bloody meal. They clearly wouldn't let them off. So when should they resist them if not now? However, his voice hadn't even faded when a terrifying beam streaked across the vast sky and chopped off his head. His bloody head went out flying. It was a gory scene. However, the devil race naturally couldn't deter those experts at this time. After all, a sword was hanging on these experts' necks no matter whether they extended their heads or retracted them. At worst they would have to fight. A person must die with pride. They mustn't run away from the battlefield. These human experts knew that they could survive only if reinforcements suddenly appeared at this time. Otherwise, they would be completely crushed, and wouldn't be able to escape. Their death was almost certain. Therefore, they might as well just fight. Moreover, they didn't know whether the people who would arrive next would be their enemy or friend. They might even be abandoned to be wiped out. Only a few people among all of them might have never come across a desperate situation of life off life or death even after cultivating till this extent. They obviously didn't want to die. However, they weren't afraid of death either. They wouldn't retreat even if they were cornered. They would only fight to death. Those human experts together launched the most formidable attack after one of the human experts said this. It seemed as if their attack would unleash a destructive power that would destroy the sky itself. Overconfident ants. Emotion coldly snorted. Then, a big hand stretched out. It covered the entire sky, transformed into a devil energy cloud, and crashed down overwhelmingly. The attack of those experts immediately disappeared after it got grasped by that big hand. Yishiwen, this is a good opportunity to grab those 3 magic crystal or deposits. You can use the Star Colossus avatar at least once with that. Yemo agitatedly said. The Star Colossus avatar possessed great might. However, it would consume an astronomical amount of primary spirit dawn every time it was brought into use. It would consume more than 500 million primary spirit dawn for fighting just once now that it had made the breakthrough into the intermediate stage of Great Sage Realm. Yishiwen didn't dare to use it casually even if he was filthy rich. It was his trump card for saving his life in the devil world. Yishiwen didn't hesitate any further as he thought of this. He immediately set out. Suddenly, a fire cloud filled the entire sky. It then transformed into a big hand, and suddenly swept towards those magic crystal or deposits which were floating in the sky. Yizaiwen's speed was extremely fast. He grabbed those magic crystal or deposits in an instant, and put them inside the heavenly source mirror. Who was that? Emotion became angry. He had just defeated the attack of those experts in a manner that made it seem as if a cat was playing with a mouse. However, someone had taken advantage of this distraction, and had snatched away those 3 magic crystal or deposits. He had taken out these magic crystal or deposits in order to lure those human experts. However, he had used them as bait and nothing more. He believed that these ores were still his stuff, and the other people couldn't touch them. However, Yishiwen had taken advantage of the chaos, and had snatched away those magic crystal or deposits. Consequently, Emotion felt as if someone had thrown a heavy slap on his face. He was born in a noble family. However, it could be said that 300 primary spirit dawn were the majority of his net wealth. So, it would certainly be a huge loss for him if he lost it. Lost it. His gaze locked upon Yizaiwen's body almost in an instant. He became angry, and his face turned purple with rage when he saw a grin on Yizaiwen's delicate and pretty face. It was obviously a disdainful smile which he had happened to see. Is he ridiculing me? Emotion had been looking down on these humans until a moment ago. He considered them as his prey. However, someone among these preys had given him a tight backhanded slap on his face. Moreover, it was a very loud slap. This blow had made him dizzy. He was an arrogant man since he had been rich since childhood. He also possessed high innate talent. So, he looked down on everyone. However, someone had given him a tight slap on his face this time. So, how could he let it pass? He suddenly roared in anger. Catch him for me! The other devil's gaze fell on Yishiwen at this time. They had also found that the magic crystal or deposits had been snatched away by a human. They became angry as a result. It had looked like a flawless plan. It seemed as if this plan had been rehearsed properly in advance. It was as if everything had already been predicted. They couldn't attract the powerful Heaven's Pride experts of the human race as intended. However, their plan hadn't gone in vain since these people also had many experts of half-step Great Sage Realm. The martial power of these devils would have increased enormously after having devoured them. They had made such a perfect plan. However, they had made just a small mistake at this time, and the magic crystal or deposits had been snatched away by someone. However, it didn't matter. It was still a dead end for that person who had taken away the magic crystal or deposits. And the magic crystal or deposits would return to their hands as long as they killed him. Yishiwen grinned. It seemed as if he was mocking those devils who considered themselves very clever. After all, these devils had now suffered a double loss after trying to trick the enemy. Yishiwen suddenly unfolded the golden devil wings behind his body, transformed into a streamer of light, and flew away. He didn't care about the other human experts. However, he had still attracted the attentions of the most ferocious devils. So, those human experts could now escape from the remaining few. To be continued. Chapter 607. Chapter 607 rushes out of the tight encirclement. Yishiwen didn't have a good opinion regarding those disciples of other forces. So, he wouldn't mind attacking them if they provoked him. However, targeting them at this time wouldn't be considered virtuous if the countless years-old enmity between humans and devils was taken into account. The enmity between them was obviously very deep. It was like an ocean of blood. Perhaps some people could have done this. However, Yishiwen wasn't in a situation to use such underhanded means at this time. He was certain that the most ferocious devil would soon catch up with him. And the other human experts could escape from the remaining few devils at that time. He also didn't want to use the Star Colossus avatar since he felt that it wouldn't be worth it to do so in such a matter. After all, he would have to use up those 3 magic crystal or deposits which he had obtained with great difficulty. And then, all his hard work would go in vain. He could use the Star Colossus avatar thrice, once at a time. It was his protective talisman in this devil world. Therefore, he didn't wish to use it unless he was in great need. Moreover, he had planned to use the harsh living environment of the devil world to temper himself. Furthermore, it was impossible for these devils to catch up with him. It seemed as if those devil experts had turned into a group of infuriated roosters. They attacked Yishiwen one after another with a killing intention. Their dreadful martial arts congealed a huge specter in the sky. That specter then stepped ahead and caught up with Yishiwen. Then, its foot suddenly smashed down upon Yishiwen. It seemed as if the entire world would crumble under this foot. A dreadful power was boiling therein. It seemed as if this attack had been unleashed with an intention to kill Yishiwen since there wasn't any sign of holding back in the attack. Yishiwen was merely an expert of Sage Great Perfection realm. But they had still launched a full-scale attack on him. So, it was clear how furious they were. Their rage could simply burn the sky. Yishiwen boldly retaliated. He clenched his hands and formed a pair of fists. His hands then produced 2 big stars in the sky. They looked like a pair of iron hammers. The big stars went across the sky and suddenly pounded upon that big foot, just like a meteor crashes on Earth. Bang! A dreadful force reverberated. 2 tremendous forces boiled at once. And everything present in the surroundings got transformed into nothingness as a result. Puff! Yishiwen felt a strange taste coming from his throat and spouted a mouthful of blood. There wasn't any suspense left. His whole person had been stepped down to fall from the sky. Yishiwen was tyrannical. But he could also only contend against a few experts of intermediate stage of half-step Great Sage realm. However, the majority of these devil experts were in the intermediate stage of half-step Great Sage realm. Moreover, a few experts of late stage of half-step Great Sage realm were also present among them. Even a person as strong as him suddenly spouted mouthful of blood under their joint attack. It was like he was fighting dozens of senior experts who were also stronger than him. Therefore, he couldn't resist even after using the strength of the 7th layer of his tyrant body technique. In fact, he had almost gotten trampled to death. Yishiwen had spouted blood. However, other people were left dumbstruck by this. The joint attack of dozens of senior experts of intermediate and late stage of half-step Great Sage realm has failed to kill Yishiwen on the spot. He has such a powerful body. Is he some kind of a monster? Those sage experts who had planned to rob magic crystal or deposits from Yishiwen earlier had particularly been scared to death at this time. They had thought that Yishiwen was cocky. So, they had wanted to kill him. However, they now thought that they were lucky that they hadn't chosen to do so. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for them to escape if they had gone ahead with the idea of killing Yishiwen. Brothers, let's go. Everyone run away. We'll humiliate these devil brats in the future as long as there will be life left within us. We'll kill these devil brats. Someone reacted, and unwillingly roared. Everyone had been finally mobilized by him. That's right. It wasn't the time to watch Yi Zaiwen's performance. It was the time to take advantage of this opportunity, and escape when the gazes of the majority of devil experts were fixed on Yi Shiwen. This was the only way. A faint sound of the phoenix came from inside Yi Zaiwen's body at this moment. The phoenix regeneration technique was at work. Yi Shiwen hadn't used the phoenix regeneration technique since a long time. However, he had fully grasped the understanding of this technique. His present understanding of this technique couldn't be compared with earlier. The injuries that Yi Shiwen had sustained by the impact just now got healed almost in an instant. Yi Shiwen didn't hesitate any longer. He promptly flew outward to break out of the encirclement. Those devil experts also reacted one after another. They were also dumbstruck. They hadn't anticipated that Yi Shiwen would be able to withstand the impact of that massive foot. They heard a sound of breaking of glass when they were about to stimulate that huge specter once again to attack and kill Yi Shiwen. Crack! Crack! Everyone was left dumbstruck. The fact was that the huge specter that had stepped upon Yi Shiwen a moment ago had been shattered into pieces like a glass. It seemed as if it had suffered a heavy blow by a tremendous force. That tremendous force spread throughout that specter's body. Consequently, its entire body disintegrated and crumbled with a loud scream. How is this possible? Amo Tian looked on in a daze. He had been trained as a Heaven's Pride expert since childhood. It could be said that he was an experienced and knowledgeable person. What kind of person had he not seen? However, he hadn't expected that someone wouldn't only survive in this situation, but also smash that specter into pieces. He was sure that he couldn't do it if he were to be in Yi Zaiwen's place. Sage Great Perfection level experts might become overlords who could establish sex in the true martial world. However, they were simply nothing in Amo Tian's opinion. He knew that he would have been screwed if he had come across the joint attack of so many senior devil experts of half-step Great Sage Realm, when he used to be at Sage Great Perfection Realm. It would have been impossible for him to escape because the experts of intermediate stage of half-step Great Sage Realm weren't the only ones involved in this attack. Even the attacks of the experts of the late stage of half-step Great Sage Realm were mixed in. It was simply impossible to be a match for them. However, that was exactly what Yi Shiwen had done. On top of that, he had defeated the specter. What kind of physique does he possess? How can he be so powerful? Amo Tian was somewhat baffled. Your Majesty, he might be an owner of some special physique among the humans. He might have restored a part of the lineage of ancient humans. Our cultivation will progress even more quickly if we devour a human who has such a special physique. Moreover, we might evolve a physique similar to this special type after we've devoured this human expert. The Heaven's Pride expert of the Azura clan was behind Amo Tian. He suddenly stepped forward at this time, and said. He was looking at Yi Shiwen with a greedy expression in his eyes. It seemed as if he was looking at an exotic cuisine. There were various kinds of clans among the devil race. And every clan had its own speciality. Humans didn't have so many divisions. However, they used to have various traits in the past. Furthermore, the quantity of such traits wasn't much. So, it could be said that every trait was a precious treasure. Therefore, the martial power of these devil experts would increase sharply if they swallowed even one individual who possessed ancient human traits. It certainly wasn't a myth. Amo Tian's eyes suddenly lit up. That's right. He had been thinking only about the shock that Yi Shiwen had given him. He hadn't been able to think anything else. However, he wasn't shocked anymore. Instead, he was thinking rationally now. Yi Shiwen had shown such a stunning performance. So, he must have some special bloodline in his body. This human could become a huge supplement for him. Catch him! Amo Tian ordered. He himself took the initiative at this time, and chased after Yi Shiwen. That Heaven's Pride expert of the Azura clan also rushed out. Several devil experts rushed towards Yi Shiwen one after another. Only a few of them had stayed here in order to encircle the other human experts. After all, these human experts were very insignificant in comparison to Yi Shiwen. These experts with ordinary physiques were just like bloody meal for them. They didn't deserve to become even their slaves. There was absolutely no need to give importance to a group of such puny experts. However, there weren't many humans like Yishiwen who had such a special physique. Who would let such a person go? Yi Zaiwen's speed was extremely quick. He was about to break out of the encirclement of the devils. However, a senior devil expert of intermediate stage of half-step Great Sage Realm had already arrived in front of Yishiwen. He had blocked Yi Zaiwen's way in an attempt to prevent him from escaping. His face was full of scales, and it was brimming with a ruthless and sinister expression. He was looking at Yishiwen in a manner that made it seem as if he was looking at a meal. Yishiwen had come to know about the devil race's characteristics from EMO. Therefore, he obviously knew what they were thinking. He felt a bit sick after he thought that he was being considered as a bloody meal by these devil experts. "Get out of my way!" Yishiwen shouted. He then angrily shot a punch in full swing. Yishiwen had attacked in a hurry. However, he hadn't held back. After all, he couldn't afford to be stopped. Otherwise, those devil experts who were coming from behind would catch up with him. His speed was so fast that he could escape even from the hands of a great sage. However, the precondition was that he mustn't get surrounded. Yishiwen had enormous skills. However, he wouldn't be able to escape if he got surrounded. He would have no other choice at that time but to take out the Star Colossus avatar. And that would mean that all of his hard work would go in vain. That devil expert of intermediate stage of half-step Great Sage Realm felt the fist wind coming over. It seemed as if a mountain was rolling over to crush him. The fist wind, fist pressure, and fist intention along with the boiling real elemental energy crushed the vacuum, and produced a black crack in space. And this crack immediately proliferated in that devil expert's direction. "Go to hell, human!" That devil expert angrily shot a set of devil fist technique. Waves of fierce wind started to wail everywhere. It seemed as if a country of devil gods had been established. People were dying everywhere. It was deadly and frightening spectacle. Bang! It was a shocking scene of doomsday. It seemed as if a big star had suddenly collided with that country of devil gods, and destroyed the mountains and rivers. Countless followers of devil gods were evaporated in an instant. They screamed as they perished. The small country of devil gods was collapsing. It was being crushed by Yi Zaiwen's fist technique, inch by inch. That devil expert got frightened when he saw that Yi Zaiwen's fist was quickly approaching him. He roared repeatedly, and shot all kinds of martial arts techniques. However, he couldn't stop Yi Zaiwen's advancement. "Get wrecked!" Yishiwen shouted as he advanced step by step. The world trembled under his footsteps, and the void broke down. The defenses of that devil expert collapsed under his steps. The devil expert felt as if he was being torn apart by a tremendous force. He then suddenly disintegrated in the sky. Blood splashed out, and the fragments of his bones started to swirl in the air. His death created an opening in the encirclement that had been laid out by the devil experts. Therefore, Yishiwen quickly transformed into a streamer of light, and flew out. "Damn it! Chase him for me!" The angry roar of the flustered and exasperated Emotion came from behind him. To be continued. Chapter 608. Chapter 608. Freeze for this young lady. Only a short time had passed. But Yishiwen had already flown past a great distance along with the dozens of senior devil experts in tow. He had transformed into a streamer of light, and had disappeared into the horizon rather quickly. "Brothers, let's fight with these devil bastards, and kill them!" The remaining experts became pleasantly surprised when they saw that more than half of the devil experts who had planned the ambush had flown away. The ambush had been a dead end for them earlier. However, they had now recovered from a seemingly impossible situation. The devil experts who had stayed here were quite formidable even if they weren't many. However, they had a way out now. It was hard to say how much better their present situation was than earlier. Therefore, there was no reason to hesitate now. The human experts suddenly rose in revolt, and started to fight with the group of remaining devil experts. Meanwhile, those devil experts who were chasing Yi Shiwen weren't getting any closer to him. They were flustered and exasperated. However, it was clear that each one of them was an elite. All of them possessed a special agility technique. Therefore, their speed was very fast. They even pulled out trails of afterimages in the sky. However, they still couldn't overtake Yi Shiwen's speed. Those human experts weren't present here. Therefore, Yi Shiwen didn't hesitate a bit. He immediately stopped suppressing the devil characteristic on the devil wings with his divinities. Consequently, his speed became even faster. The divinities crawled all over his body after he had stopped suppressing the devil characteristic. Consequently, his vision became even more profound. Moreover, his delicate and handsome face suddenly became unusually devilish. It seemed as if the entire devil world had suddenly melted into his body. "Chase him for me. I must kill him brutally." Emotian's face was cold as he said. His complexion had turned exceptionally ugly. Nobody had ever played with him like this. Nobody had thrown such a big slap on his face. He had never faced such humiliation. Therefore, he wouldn't be satisfied until he dismembered Yi Shiwen's body into 10,000 pieces. Yi Shiwen kept flapping the black wings behind his body, and crossed 100 miles in an instant. What had mostly made Emotian depressed was the fact that he couldn't catch up with Yi Shiwen. He was obviously far stronger than Yi Shiwen. However, he couldn't catch up with him at this time. This was the thing that had made him the most depressed. All kinds of attacks approached Yi Shiwen from behind. However, his devil wings suddenly issued the sound of wind and thunder, and he seemingly transformed into a god of wind and thunder. He intercepted all the attacks. Those attacks couldn't injure him even a bit. Yi Shiwen's seventh layer of tyrant body was still very strong. Therefore, these devil experts couldn't injure him unless they joined hands. However, it was simply impossible for them to collaborate at this time when they were focused entirely on keeping up with him. Moreover, there was a disparity in their respective martial powers. There had been no problem in the beginning when all of them had taken off together. However, they must do their utmost now whilst chasing Yi Shiwen. Otherwise, they would be left behind. And the distance between them and Yi Shiwen would widen even further. Emotian was feeling that he had lost face. So, he couldn't let Yi Shiwen go at any cost. He frantically pursued him for 3 days and 3 nights. He didn't want to let Yi Shiwen go. He wanted to exhaust his real elemental energy, and then kill him. He also knew that most of the human experts who had arrived in the devil world couldn't absorb the devil energy present in the air. Only the ones who could transform into devils could do so. Therefore, most of these human experts could only depend upon those spirit dawn for replenishing their real elemental energy. However, he didn't know that Yi Shiwen could directly absorb the devil energy. Therefore, it was useless if he thought that Yi Shiwen would die because of exhaustion of real elemental energy. "Yi Shiwen, your purpose of arriving in the devil world will go in vain if it continues like this," Emo said. All of these devil experts were extremely formidable. So, it would be quite normal for them to keep pursuing or fighting like this for 10 years or even 20 years. However, this wasn't something that Yi Shiwen wanted. Bang! A huge claw suddenly fell down from sky to grab Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen dodged the sneak attack of that claw. He then clenched his teeth. "I don't want to call out the Star Colossus avatar. But these horrid devil experts will get killed if I do so. Then, they'll get some relief from this unceasing chase." Suddenly, a mountain range appeared in front of Yi Shiwen. The devil energy was present in abundance therein. Yi Shiwen flew down headlong into it without any hesitation. He wouldn't mind summoning out the Star Colossus avatar if these devil experts still acted recklessly, and came down chasing him. Then, the Star Colossus avatar would kill all of them. Those devil experts were about to continue chasing Yi Shiwen. However, they suddenly remembered something when they saw him heading into the mountains. And they stopped in midair as a result. "Your Majesty, this place is..." The Heaven's Pride expert of the Azura clan stepped forward, and said, "I've heard that a devil beast that has recently entered the Great Sage Realm stays here. We would come across great danger if we broke into its territory. The relation between the devil race and the devil beasts of the devil world was nasty. It was as if two tribal groups had been fighting for survival. Emotion shot a glance at that mountain range filled with devil energy with his ice-cold eyes. He hesitated a bit. He wouldn't have minded rushing into this mountain range earlier. However, the king of these mountains had recently made a breakthrough into the great sage realm. So, it was a completely different situation now. After all, a great sage didn't have a low position even in the devil world. That man has boldly entered inside. He's courting death. As per the records, a wind and thunder devil snake lives in these mountains. It had started its transformation into a flood dragon 100 years ago. And it has recently completed that transformation and become a devil flood dragon. Moreover, that human expert has gone into its territory. So, he is going to become that devil flood dragon's meal. He is doomed now, the genius of the Azura clan said. Emotion wasn't willing to give up. However, he knew that the devil beasts wouldn't differentiate between humans and devils. They would treat both as enemies. Station someone here for me. And inform me if that boy doesn't die, Emotion said. He had thought for a while, and had then decided not to stay here any further since it would be useless to do so. He hadn't brought too many of his subordinates this time. After all, he didn't wish to use them to surround an insignificant person of the sage great perfection realm. His target was to kill a few Heaven's Pride experts of the human race so that he could become famous in the devil world and obtain a high-level status in his clan. This was almost the default unwritten rule on both sides. Devils and humans, no expert could get a favorable condition by cultivating in a protected environment. They had to go through unceasing slaughtering. And only those who would survive would ascend to the peak. And, as for other people, it was almost set by default that they would end up becoming the corpses that would pave the way for the victors. It was quite cruel. However, this was also the reality. The road to invincibility needed many sacrifices. It was obvious that nobody wanted to become the corpse on someone's journey to invincibility. Everyone considered other people as their stepping stones. Yishuan didn't know what Emotion was thinking. He just noticed that Emotion hadn't come down chasing after him. So, he heaved a sigh of relief. He then thought to have a glance on the surrounding environment. These mountains were located inside the devil world. However, they could be regarded as a beautiful green place. He could hear the running water as well as a faint pleasant sound that was coming through it. He saw a giant lake. It had a radius of 50 kilometers or so. It was spread as far as his eye could see. This lake was different from ordinary lakes. The temperature of this lake was unbearably low. One must know that an ordinary variation in the temperature couldn't affect Yishuan as per his current cultivation. However, this place was so cold that it made him shiver. The strange thing was that the temperature was so low that the lake should have frozen. However, this lake hadn't frozen. It was still in its liquid state. Layers of vapor were unceasingly floating on its surface. Therefore, it looked hazy, and the visibility was low. Yishuan saw a fuzzy petite silhouette inside the lake. It looked captivating. However, he hadn't clearly seen anything when an evil wind swept down from the sky and hit him on his face. Then, a small white hand suddenly shuttled out from the vacuum, and swept out towards Yishuan's throat to grab it. Yishuan was startled by this. He had been in a state of high alert since the time he had entered this mountain range. That's because that he didn't think that Emotion had given up the thought of pursuing him even if he hadn't come down here chasing after him. After all, it had seemed obvious just by looking at Emotion's ashamed and angry appearance that he wouldn't give up unless he got hold of Yishuan. There had been only one possibility. There was something in these mountains that Emotion was afraid of. However, Yishuan had had no choice since it might have taken him several years to get rid of Emotion if he hadn't arrived here. It had seemed from outside that this place was brimming with dreadful devil energy. However, Yishuan couldn't see even the shadow of a beast once he arrived down here. This had naturally made him somewhat suspicious. Yishuan had an urgent feeling of a bad omen in his heart. So, he stepped away. Then, the devil wings suddenly unfolded behind his body, and his figure flew away about hundreds of feet in order to avoid being clutched by that small hand. "Freeze for this young lady!" a lovable voice sounded. And the power of principles caressed Yi Zaiwen's face, and swept across. Yi Shiwen felt as if the surrounding space had suddenly been frozen. It had been frozen by the mysterious power of this figure. This was the power of the Great Sage Realm. Yi Shiwen had used the Star Colossus avatar in the past. So, he was quite familiar with this power. This is the power of the Great Sage Realm. A perilous situation aroused in his mind. The opponent turned out to be a great sage? It isn't surprising that Mo Tian didn't dare to come here. So, this was the reason. His whole person had frozen in the sky, and he had been rendered incapable of moving. So, he was thinking to call the Star Colossus avatar in order to help him break free. However, he then saw an approximately 16 or 17-year-old girl stepping over the void. She quickly arrived in front of him. Her persona was somewhat gloomy, and her countenance was somewhat dull. However, her clothes looked especially vivacious. Her skin was as fair as snow. It was unusually white. Her dark gray eyes were full of curiosity. "She's so cute. She looks just like a cute little girl." However, what Yi Shiwen mostly cared about was the pair of long gray wings that had converged behind this girl's body. Fallen Angel! This thought suddenly emerged in Yi Zaiwen's mind. Fallen Angel was the most mysterious clan among the 8 noble clans of the Devil race. It was said it wasn't a native clan of the Devil world. It had joined the Devil world later. They didn't have too many people. However, they had many outstanding geniuses. This small but highly refined clan was a striking contrast to the populous Great Devil clan. The Fallen Angel clan was considered as a low-key clan in the Devil world. However, nobody dared to underestimate these angels. In fact, even those other 7 noble clans didn't dare to do so. I hadn't expected that I would see the most mysterious and low-key original devils as well as the fallen angels soon after arriving in the Devil world. To be continued. Chapter 609. Chapter 609. The second layer of devil wings takes form. The fallen angels were different from the arrogant and haughty original devil clan. They had always maintained a kind of low-key magnificence. It could be said that they were noble among nobles. Several people had participated in the Devil World competition over the years. Many of them had participated multiple times. However, they had never seen the fallen angels. In fact, many of them had never even heard about them. Yi Shiwen looked absent-minded. However, he quickly regained his focus. He was stunned to see that young girl before his eyes. This girl wasn't very old. In fact, she must be younger than him. However, she was already in the Great Sage Realm. Yi Shiwen was emotionally moved despite being in this hostile situation. So, the saying that everyone in the Fallen Angel clan is a genius wasn't false. However, he had thought about this just for a moment. After all, he was still focused on trying to save his life. Moreover, he was also planning to take out the Star Colossus avatar. However, he wasn't sure if even the Star Colossus avatar would be a match for this delicate-looking girl present before him. "Which kind of devil are you?" That girl of Fallen Angel clan looked at Yi Shiwen somewhat curiously. Then, she became angry the next moment. "Why did you peep in when this young lady was taking a bath?" The girl opened her eyes wide. Her watery clear eyes looked so clear that one could see the bottom. She was brimming with anger. However, she didn't look terrifying. On the contrary, she looked even cuter. Yi Shiwen almost spouted a mouthful of blood. Peeped in when she was bathing? He obviously hadn't seen anything since the time had been too short. In fact, he had almost gotten clutched to death by this girl in an instant. Moreover, he hadn't arrived here with such intentions. After all, who could have imagined that someone would be taking a bath in this desolate mountain whilst being unafraid of those devil beasts? He then further thought about this matter. Any devil beast who wasn't cautious and dared to approach this young girl would be doomed for sure if one were to take her fighting prowess into account. When did I peep in on you bathing? I haven't seen anything. Yishuan replied whilst feeling quite helpless. That because this young lady had already discovered you. That girl of fallen angel clan looked at Yishuan in a smug manner. Why haven't you answered me already? What kind of devil are you? How are you different from those unbearably ugly devils? Unbearably ugly devils. Yishuan was left dumbstruck. It had been quite a long time since he had set foot on the road of martial arts. However, he had never heard someone using terms like beautiful and ugly as a criteria to judge anyone. Let's say that there was a man who possessed tyrannical strength. Then, it was certain that beautiful women would willingly spend money on him instead of demanding it even if that man had missing limbs. After all, attractive looks couldn't act as an advantage. Having formidable strength was the way of the king. Yishuan, think of a way to escape from here. This girl isn't affable, Yemo said. He could see a murderous look in the eyes of that girl of the fallen angel clan. It seemed as if she was passing judgment on him even though she was the victim. Yishuan hadn't thought much when the eyes of that girl of fallen angel clan shone. She then said, You don't have wings and scales. You're a human? Yes, yes. It's no wonder that you don't have devil energy on your body. I've seen pictures of humans in the illustrated handbook. Yizaiwan's face turned black. What are humans? Are they some endangered animals that one can recognize only through illustrated handbooks? He found it a bit absurd. I hadn't expected that humans would be like this. You're so weak, the girl of the fallen angel clan said with disgust. Yishuan very much wanted to say, We humans also have some powerful characters, you know. You'll become my pet. This is the price of peeping on this young lady when she was bathing. I'll take good care of you. And you'll come in handy if someone tries to flaunt their abyss devil wolf pet in front of me again. You'll help me in putting them down. The girl of fallen angel clan brandished her small fist. It seemed as if she was already daydreaming about this flashy scene. Her eyes were shining. They looked like a pair of night pearls. Great! It's decided then. What? Pet? Yishuan felt as if his firm heart would collapse any moment. He was feeling wronged and sullen. He had seen many demon beasts being tamed as demon pets. However, he had never thought that he himself would become a pet of a devil one day. Yishuan, you might as well become her devil pet, and be done with it. This fallen angel has an extraordinary origin. I can feel the grandeur of her noble bloodline on her body. It's not a bad deal. Yemo jokingly spat out these words. Get lost, Yishuan replied angrily. The most important thing is that you can't defeat her even if you don't agree. In fact, you can't defeat her even if you call the Star Colossus Avatar. This girl isn't very old. However, she possesses unfathomable strength, Yemo said. Get lost. You can go and become her pet if you want to. I won't be able to raise my head with dignity in the future if I become someone's devil pet. Yishuan resentfully replied. Impossible! Yishuan clenched his teeth before that girl of fallen angel clan, and replied. He would never be very submissive even if he came across a great sage. He would simply escape if he wanted to. However, he hadn't anticipated this situation, and had gotten trapped as a result. I can help you in making a breakthrough into the great sage realm if you promise me. That girl of fallen angel clan said in a tempting manner. However, don't blame me for what happens if you want promise. You've dared to peep on me while I was taking a bath. It's obviously a mortal crime. So I'll send you to accompany those devil beasts who used to live on these mountains. That girl of fallen angel clan opened her round eyes wide, and said ferociously. She was quite skillful in using the carrot and stick policy. Yishuan became scared. It's no wonder that I haven't heard the voice of any devil beast in these mountains. They must have fallen prey to this girl. I can totally imagine how pitiful it must have been for those devil beasts. Don't even think about it. Yishuan clenched his teeth. He found this too much. It seemed from his appearance that he would rather die than submit. He secretly mobilized his entire real elemental energy, and became ready to wake up the Star Colossus at any time for a life-and-death fight. How about, you become my pet for 1,000 years? That girl of Fallen Angel clan couldn't help but relent as she saw Yi Zaiwen's determined attitude. Then 800 years! Yi Shiwen still remained unmoved. He looked as if he wasn't afraid of dying. 700 years! 600 years! 100 years! That girl of the Fallen Angel clan was almost driven mad as she saw Yi Shiwen ignoring her. She wanted to bite him to death. Then let's do it like this. You take me out of the devil world. I'll let you go so long as you take me to your human world. That girl of Fallen Angel clan opened her big and watery eyes, and looked at Yi Shiwen. It seemed as if she was somewhat pleading. Yi Shiwen became somewhat soft-hearted. He also put away the thought of a life-and-death fight. He said, All right. Great. Let's go and conquer the human world. That girl of Fallen Angel clan brandished her small hand. She had done so in an imposing manner that was quite similar to that of a generalissimo. However, her facial expression didn't give any vibes of valor whatsoever. She waved her hand, and the spatial power that had frozen Yi Shiwen promptly dispersed. However, Yi Shiwen felt extremely depressed. I've suffered a big loss at the hands of a little girl. Be obedient! That girl of Fallen Angel clan narrowed her pair of beautiful big eyes. And her eyes quickly transformed into a crescent moon as a result. Just follow this young lady, and you'll enjoy treats. This is for you. It's a reward. That girl of Fallen Angel clan casually threw a fist-sized devil core towards Yi Shiwen. It was a very small devil core. However, it was faintly emitting the coercion of the Great Sage level. The fluctuations swept across, swirling in the air. This is a devil core of Great Sage level? Yi Shiwen was left dumbstruck. Suddenly, that devil core transformed into a black light, and flew towards him. He received it in his hand. He felt as if an ink cartridge was emitting magical power that was corroding his palm. The sound of burning of his palm echoed. He promptly used his divinities to wrap up his palm in order to avoid his palm from being corroded. After all, that would have been tragic. The aura of this devil core was slightly impure. It might be possible that that devil beast had barely entered the Great Sage realm. However, it was clear that it had been an authentic Great Sage level devil beast. It belongs to a snake which had dared to sneak a peek at this young lattice beauty. The girl of Fallen Angel clan softly snorted. She didn't say anything further. However, the aftermath was quite obvious. Yi Shiwen used his divine sense, and had a peek at the devil core which was in his hand. It is indeed the devil core of a devil flood dragon that had already completed its transformation into a flood dragon. They also possessed the dragon's obscene nature. So, the devil flood dragons are like sub-dragons. They want to capture every beautiful woman they see. However, it had unfortunately bumped into an iron wall this time. No, this girl is an iron mountain. Anyone who kicks her will find the bones of their legs shattered. Yi Shiwen, hurry up and absorb it. This devil core is the devil core of a wind and thunder devil flood dragon. It contains the power of wind and thunder within. Your devil wings can thoroughly transform into the second layer of wind and thunder wings after you absorb it. Then, even this fallen angel won't be able to stop you from escaping, Yemo said excitedly. Yi Zaiwen's devil wings hadn't made a breakthrough since a long time. He had unceasingly tried to deduce and cultivate the second layer of wind and thunder since the time he had touched upon its threshold. However, he hadn't been able to make a big progress since there hadn't been enough wind and thunder power for him to absorb. Therefore, he could only mix the wind and thunder power into the first layer of his devil wings, and increase the speed of his devil wings. He couldn't condense the second layer of devil wings. However, he might be able to do so if he absorbed this great sage-level devil core. After that, his speed would increase countless times. Even this girl of Fallen Angel clan wouldn't be able to stop him then. That girl of Fallen Angel clan was probably waiting for Yi Zaiwen's compliment. She waited a long time, but didn't hear Yi Zaiwen's compliment. So, she became puzzled. But then, she saw that Yishiwen had already sat cross-legged on the ground, and had begun to absorb the power of wind and thunder from inside the devil core. Consequently, she became depressed, and stamped her feet in dejection. She ferociously glanced at Yishiwen, and then went to the other side whilst sulking. Yishiwen didn't know how depressed that girl of fallen angel clan was. After all, he had wholeheartedly immersed himself into absorbing the wind and thunder power. He couldn't afford to lose his concentration now. However, this didn't mean that he wasn't wary of that girl. Yemo was secretly keeping watch for him. Furthermore, that girl wouldn't have waited till now if she wanted to kill him. The wind and thunder power had enormous might. But they were also very hard to control. An ordinary person who had gotten hold of even one of the two powers would emerge as an overlord in the same realm. So, one could well imagine the tyranny of someone who had mastered both the powers of wind and thunder. To be continued. Chapter 610. Chapter 610, Wind and Thunder Wings, completed. The wind and thunder power must be mastered at the same time. Their essences should be in equilibrium. However, how could it be a simple thing to keep these two violent powers in equilibrium? Fortunately, Yishiwen had the experience of doing so in the past. He had extracted a certain amount of wind and thunder power in the past. Moreover, the wind and thunder powers present inside the devil core of that wind and thunder devil flood dragon had already been equilibrium. After all, the wind and thunder devil flood dragon would have exploded and died if that wasn't the case. Therefore, Yishiwen was very careful when he was absorbing the wind and thunder power. He was also operating the cultivation technique of his devil wings at this time. A pair of black wings had congealed behind his body. That girl of the fallen angel clan looked at Yishiwen in a somewhat baffled manner. The devil energy on his wings wasn't just pure. In fact, it was countless times purer than the devil energy present on the wings of those devil experts. Is he truly a human? However, she had never seen any human. She had just seen the records of humans mentioned in some old books. Therefore, she didn't know whether this situation was normal or not. The devil energy on Yizaiwen's devil wings became thicker and thicker. The devil energy present in the surroundings poured into his devil wings like a river, and made his wings more and more visible. Every feather on his wings could be seen faintly emitting rays of light. It was a different feeling from the violent, negative, and extremely evil feeling that arose from the usual devil energy. After all, that devil energy contained the negative yin energy. The devil energy present on Yizaiwen's devil wings appeared to be the most upright and frank kind of yin power. This had happened because Yishiwen had purified his divinities day after day. The extreme of negative yin is the positive yang, and vice versa. Integration of both would lead to the formation of the power of primal chaos. The power of wind and thunder was gradually being born on his devil wings. The wind and thunder power was in no hurry to occupy the entire wings. It just nibbled at the devil wings little by little. The second layer of the devil wings would be completely formed when the entire area of the devil wings would have been nibbled. And Yizaiwen's speed would increase enormously at that time. Time passed day by day. Yishiwen sat motionless in cross-legged position for 3 days' time. Simultaneously, he kept cultivating the second layer of his devil wings, and shaping the wind and thunder wings. Damned human! Stinky human! That girl of the fallen angel clan had gotten bored to death in this time period. She had been passing the time by kicking the stones on the ground. She had also continued to swear at Yishiwen. You've dared to make this young lady wait for so long. So, this young lady will punish you once you wake up. The girl of the fallen angel clan said whilst being annoyed. Crash bang. A massive sound was heard. It seemed as if a thunderbolt had slammed down from the sky. Endless devil energy present in the surroundings crazily rushed towards Yishiwen from all directions. Yizaiwen's devil wings got covered by the wind and thunder power. Then, the sound of wind and thunder echoed as his wings fluttered. He appeared like a god who was in charge of the wind and thunder power. Ha 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 ha. Done. Yi Shiwen suddenly opened his eyes. He had finally condensed the second layer of the devil wings. Crash bang. Another huge sound of wind and thunder resounded. The sound of explosion echoed in the world. And boundless power began to vibrate everywhere. Suddenly, sand and stones began to swirl around Yi Shiwen. Whiz! A shrill sound of breaking of space resounded. And Yi Shiwen soared straight into the sky whilst being wrapped up in wind and thunder power. He disappeared inside the clouds in an instant. Come back, human. Where are you going? The girl of the fallen angel clan reacted. She hadn't expected that Yi Shiwen's speed would increase to this extent after he had absorbed the devil core of the wind and thunder devil flood dragon. Yi Shiwen's speed had been very fast earlier as well. However, it hadn't been faster than hers. After all, her realm was much higher than that of Yi Shiwen. On top of that, the fallen angel clan were famous for their outstanding agility skill. So, who could have imagined that Yi Shiwen's speed would increase to this extent after he had cultivated the wind and thunder wings? Yi Shiwen had flown dozens of miles away in an instant. And a huge crack had been torn open inside the rolling devil clouds in the sky as a result. The devils who had been cultivating inside the devil clouds fell down when they bumped into such violent wind and thunder power. Ha 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 ha. Yi Shiwen's cheerful and carefree laughter reverberated in the sky. He hadn't flown in such a carefree manner in a long time. It seemed as if his speed had broken through the limits of wind. A dozen or so senior devil experts had formed the encirclement at a distant place behind him. They could only see the wind and thunder power flashing across the sky. They just looked at it in a daze, and didn't dare to obstruct it. They wanted to stop it. However, they didn't have the strength to do so. In fact, they couldn't even track Yi Shiwen's movements clearly. What was that? Was that wind and thunder power? Was there a wind and thunder devil flood dragon present inside it? A devil expert asked. He had become terrified. These devil experts were naturally arrogant. After all, each of them was almost about to enter the great sage realm. However, almost means almost. They couldn't be compared with real great sages. They had received the information that the wind and thunder devil flood dragon had recently entered the great sage realm. However, it didn't mean that they could be placed on a par with it. Especially, it was even more risky in case of devil beasts. After all, one would be devoured by those devil beasts just like a bloody meal if they didn't take care. This wind and thunder devil flood dragon has come out. Therefore, that boy must have been eaten by it. After all, how could that wind and thunder devil flood dragon not have known if someone had intruded? A devil expert said. Right. I also think the same. That human is already dead. So, we don't need to stay here any further. It would be better if we go and join His Majesty in hunting those human experts. After all, those are the battlefields where we should be at. We shouldn't keep watch at this place like some guards, a young devil expert said whilst being discontented. Everyone looked towards the Heaven's Pride expert of the Azura clan. After all, he held the leader's position in Emotion's absence. Therefore, he was the one who was most qualified to make a decision. The Heaven's Pride expert of the Azura clan remained silent for a moment. Then, he said, It doesn't make sense to stay here in that case. We must go. Moreover, he is just an insignificant expert of sage great perfection realm. He would have died at our hands if he hadn't escaped quickly. He wouldn't have been able to cause so much trouble in that case. The devil experts let out a sigh of relief after they heard these words from the mouth of that Heaven's Pride expert of the Azura clan. They were devil experts. So, they naturally had a ruthless attitude. However, it wasn't that they were without wisdom. They knew that wind and thunder devil flood dragon might get unhappy and swallow all of them if they continued to wait here. They would have no place to go and cry in that case. However, they didn't know that the legendary wind and thunder devil flood dragon had already gotten its skin peeled off because of its pervy intentions. And even its devil core had been absorbed by someone. Suddenly, these devil experts scattered like birds, and left to join Emotion. Yishuan flew in the sky for some time in an extremely carefree way. Then, his figure came to a sudden halt in the sky. Yishuan, this is a good opportunity. It's your best chance to escape, Yemo said. It seemed that the girl of the fallen angel clan couldn't handle a matter properly. However, her strength was unfathomable. So, Yishuan could only escape from her hands. He had no other way to deal with her. Yishuan remained silent for a while. Then he replied, "No ill return. I've benefited from her. And I just pat my butt and leave? I can't do something so ****. Up. I can at least take her to the human world as promised." The wind and thunder wings unfolded behind Yi Zaiwen's body. They then suddenly fluttered, and transformed into wind and thunder power. Yishuan then returned to the sky above the mountains. Then, he glanced around. Those devil experts who had been waiting in an ambush weren't there. However, Yishuan didn't care about that now. After all, his speed had become fast enough to get rid of these people. And this had happened because the devil wings had made the breakthrough into the second layer. So, it was now impossible for them to catch up with him. However, he still swept out his divine sense once. He didn't see them. They have probably withdrawn. He then retracted his divine sense, and pondered why they had left. I guess they must thought that I'd been devoured by the wind and thunder devil flood dragon in the mountains, and that's why they have left. He didn't bother about them after that. He folded his wind and thunder wings, and landed into the mountains. He then saw that young girl of the fallen angel clan was crying whilst holding her head in her hands. "Damned human! Stinky human!" Yishuan heard her complaints. She probably believed that he had escaped. Therefore, she had begun to cry. Yishuan was feeling somewhat helpless. What vigor can one expect from a person who is crying? Shouldn't she be raining curses on me at this time? Women are truly made up of water. It doesn't matter which race they belong to. They are all the same. Don't cry. Someone might think that I'm bullying you if they saw you crying, Yishuan said. You didn't run away. The face of that young girl of the fallen angel clan bloomed as she raised her head. She looked pleasantly surprised after she saw that Yishuan had returned. "Yes, you're bullying me. You had said that you would take me to the human world. But you didn't keep your promise. I didn't say that I'm going," Yishuan helplessly replied. How has this little girl managed to cultivate to the great sage realm? How could a naive person like her have walked on the martial arts road? This is illogical. Perhaps what Yemo says is true. Some races are blessed by heaven. It's not clear how much better they are from humans since their birth. It can be said that the people of some races can cultivate till the great sage realm with passing time without facing any obstruction. Yishuan remembered how many fights he had experienced as he thought of this. How many times he had made a narrow escape before he had finally reached till here. He couldn't help but be deeply moved. This world is ***king unfair. I'm just hovering around the threshold of the great sage realm even after I've put all my efforts. On the other hand, this little girl has already reached the great sage realm. Can I go out to catch some fresh air? Yishuan made his case. Is it so? That young girl of the fallen angel clan looked at Yishuan with suspicion. She clearly wasn't much convinced with Yi Zaiwen's explanation that he had gone out to catch some fresh air. After all, she had called him so many times, but he hadn't listened. However, she also couldn't explain why he had returned. Yishuan realized that the young girl of the fallen angel clan had sniffed his lack of confidence. So, he hastily said, "Of course. You want to go to the human world, right? But I can't take you there for the time being. That's because I've come to the devil world for a competition." To be continued. Chapter 611. Chapter 611. Who are we going to deal with this time? Mission? Well, I'll also go with you. That girl of the fallen angel clan became overjoyed. This sudden change in her mood left Yishuan amazed. By the way, my name is Yishuan. I haven't asked your name yet? Yishuan asked. My name is Ling Fei, the girl of the fallen angel clan replied. But you can't do this. Everyone on my side is human. You look like this. So, people will recognize you. Yishuan frowned as he looked at that pair of gray wings at the back of Ling Fei's body. The fallen angel's appearance made it seem that there wasn't much difference between them and the humans. However, it was that pair of wings behind their bodies that made them appear different from humans. It might be possible that quite many people didn't know about the fallen angel clan. However, it didn't mean that nobody knew about them. And it would be very troublesome if anyone recognized her. This is simple. Check this out. Ling Fei's delicate body shook. That pair of wings behind her body turned smaller and smaller, until they finally retracted into her body. Done! Let's go now! Ling Fei's cheerful laughter reverberated inside the forest. Endless clouds were rolling in the sky. It seemed as if they had been dyed in black. One couldn't see beyond even if their gaze penetrated deep inside the clouds. It was all black. There was no daylight. The majority of areas inside the devil world were like this. It was said that there was a devil sun hanging in the sky right at the center of the devil world. And this sun hadn't set for years. It was the source of energy for everything in the devil world. A crackling sound was heard. The flames swallowed the woods, and a crisp sound was issued. The sound seemed louder and clearer in this dark night. The bursts of light smoke that rose from the burning woods flew towards the sky in spirals. A burst of fragrance spread in the entire mountain forest. The fragrance of delicious food permeated the entire place, and spread far away. Fortunately, all the devil beasts had already been driven away from inside this mountain forest. Therefore, this fragrance didn't attract any devil beast. 2 washed and peeled rabbits were hanging on 2 twigs which had been placed above a bonfire. The flesh of the rabbits gradually became golden as the flame roasted them. Drops of oil congealed into droplets, and fell into the fire. This ignited the flames further. Yishuan was roasting the rabbits by slowly turning the twigs. The fragrance in the air was becoming increasingly strong. He had been turning the branches for a long time now. However, it was simply nothing for him. It wouldn't matter to him even if he had to keep turning them until the end of time. It was very easy for him as long as he had this kind of patience. On the other side, the girl of the fallen angel clan had become impatient after having waited for a long time. She asked, "Can't we eat now? It's almost done," Yishuan replied. He shot a glance at Ling Fei as he replied, "It's not done yet. It looks well cooked." Ling Fei pointed towards the golden and oily external skin of those 2 rabbits. "Not yet. It may look good on the outside. However, it hasn't roasted from inside yet." Yi Zaiwen's current perception was extremely keen. He knew whether the rabbits had cooked or not by just having a glance at them. It's such a pain." Ling Fei once again pouted her tender red lips, and complained. "Getting impatient, are we?" Yishuan said with a smile. He hadn't barbecued in the wild like this for a long time. This was because he didn't need to eat anything in order to replenish his energy due to his cultivation. After all, he could replenish his energy just by absorbing the spirit energies from the environment. Xiaoya was sitting quietly on the side. She wasn't far from Yishuan. She was watching Yishuan and Ling Fei. It seemed as if there was nothing in this world that could faze her. She was calm and composed even in the devil world. Perhaps it was because she had gone through so much by now that nothing could faze her anymore. She would only have a smile on her small face whenever she looked at Yishuan. 10 years had passed. However, she still looked the same as when Yishuan had met her for the first time. There was no change at all. The only thing that had changed was her strength. She had entered the truth realm. In fact, she had already reached to the peak of the truth realm. She would soon enter the legendary realm. This speed wasn't as fast as that of Pang Yang Bo and other such geniuses. However, Yishuan felt that it was fast enough since Xiaoya didn't have the support of a large amount of resources like Pang Yang Bo had. Xiaoya had cultivated to this extent within a short time of 10 years, depending solely upon her ability. This was enough to make Yishiwen admire her. Ling Fei felt quite bored. So, she walked over to Xiaoya and pinched her small face. It wouldn't be strange to say that Xiaoya was shy in front of people apart from Yishiwen. In fact, she wouldn't get close to them. However, it was different in Ling Fei's case. Xiaoya was quiet in front of Ling Fei. However, Yishiwen felt that the fact that Xiaoya was willing to let Ling Fei get close to her was still a big miracle. Yishiwen asked Xiaoya about this secretly. And Xiaoya had merely replied, "This young miss somehow makes me feel intimate." Yishiwen clearly knew that a child like Xiaoya couldn't tell who was good towards her and who wasn't just by looking at them. But she could tell it by instinctively feeling their intention. She could naturally see this more clearly as compared to an ordinary person. A while passed. Yishiwen had finally cooked the rabbit meat. All three individuals ate heartily. Yishiwen and Xiaoya just tasted. After all, the two ate one rabbit put together. However, Ling Fei of the Fallen Angel clan ate a rabbit alone. But she still wasn't satisfied. She argued noisily, went to grab a few more rabbits, and asked Yishiwen to roast them for her. Whoosh! A golden light cut through the vast sky. A talisman carrying a message broke through the layers of space, and fell into Yi Zaiwen's hands. "Come at once!" There were only 3 words. However, Yishiwen saw the name written on the message. It was Bai Jingwei. Yishiwen still had a good opinion about Bai Jingwei. Yishiwen had told him to send a summon signal for him when they needed to act together. A few months had passed, and no message had arrived. So, Yishiwen had almost forgotten about that matter. However, it must be a big operation now that the message had finally arrived. A burst of devil wind whistled in the mountains as Yishiwen swept past them. Yishiwen was flying in the sky as fast as lightning. Ling Fei was also flying beside him quite freely. She didn't fall behind him. She would shout and complain from time to time. It seemed as if she had never flown in the sky before. An outsider would believe that their speed was very fast. After all, their speed was as fast as lightning. However, these individuals weren't even flying at their top speed yet. Yishiwen hadn't revealed his devil wings, and Ling Fei had retracted her angel wings. Angel wings. They were going to meet Bai Jingwei and other humans. Therefore, the two individuals couldn't reveal anything related to the devil race. Otherwise, other people would find out, and that wouldn't be a good thing. It must be mentioned that it seemed as if Ling Fei's persona had completely changed after she had retracted her devil wings and the devil energy on her body. In fact, she was giving off a pure and holy feeling now. She looked completely different from earlier. Yishiwen could easily find the position of Bai Jingwei and the others under the talisman's guidance. This was the same talisman which had carried the message. Several months had passed. So, many experts had already penetrated deep into the devil world. They had already scattered to faraway places. They were still on the periphery if one were to draw a parallel to the massive size of the devil world. However, they had gone very far away in reality. Yishiwen had to fly for 3 days and 3 nights before he came across Bai Jingwei and the others in a sierra. Bai Jingwei and the others had obtained some information about some beasts, and were exterminating them in these mountains. The devil beasts present inside the devil world were more ferocious than those demon beasts from their own world. The majority of them were in sage realm. So, a semi-sage expert couldn't separate from the group and act solo at this place. These devil beasts were very powerful. However, Bai Jingwei possessed tyrannical strength. A spear cut across the horizon just like a mountain. And those devil beasts got swept away one after another wherever it went. Bai Jingwei couldn't be stopped as long as he didn't come across a great sage expert. However, this area could be regarded as a desolate zone of the devil world. So, it wasn't probable for a great sage to appear here. Therefore, every big force would send their disciples here to temper whilst resting assured. Otherwise, a great sage expert was enough to make them vomit blood, since the said expert would kill their geniuses. These disciples might not have great importance at present. However, they could grow and become the pillars of their big forces in the future. Therefore, it would be a very big loss for a force if they lost these disciples. In fact, it could be said that they would lose an entire generation of geniuses. Yi Shiwen saw a very tyrannical devil beast of the late stage of half-step great sage realm roaring and attacking. It was the king of the countless devil beasts who lived in these mountains. However, it had now been forced into a disadvantageous position by Bai Jingwei. Even 100 devil beasts like it couldn't be a match for him. All of them would get killed by him. Bai Jingwei's dreadful strength was clearly visible from this. In fact, his points were higher than the countless experts of true martial world who had arrived in the devil world this time. He was in the 9th position. He hadn't obtained the 1st position. However, he had truly stood out among these 100,000 or so experts. He was ranked among the top 10 experts. So, his strength was self-evident. Yi Shiwen couldn't be a match for the present Bai Jingwei unless he summoned the Star Colossus avatar. It wasn't surprising that Bai Jingwei had said that he wouldn't get an opportunity to participate in the next Devil World competition. After all, Yi Shiwen could see that he was almost continuously suppressing his aura from rushing out of his body. In fact, he had reached a situation where he was about to enter the Great Sage Realm. "Brother Yi, you've arrived so soon." I don't know who this is." Bai Jingwei killed that devil beast of late stage of half-step Great Sage Realm, and then came flying over to welcome them. However, he seemed a bit surprised. After all, he had sent that message only recently, but Yi Shiwen had already arrived. It was clear that Yi Zaiwen's speed was very fast. It was in fact the same as what he had found out from the information he had received about Yi Shiwen. He had obviously investigated about Yi Zaiwen's background since he had invited him to join his group. It wasn't a difficult thing for him to find out Yi Zaiwen's roots. This intelligence turned out to be true. Yi Shiwen indeed had an extremely powerful body. But he also had another characteristic. His speed was extremely fast. Not many could match his speed. Having an incomparably tyrannical body was enough to rule the entire world. But Yi Shiwen even had incredible speed. "My name is Ling Fei." Ling Fei didn't wait for Yi Shiwen to introduce her. A smile blossomed on her face as she replied. She was a bit excited to see Bai Jingwei and such a large number of other disciples of the true martial university. After all, it was the first time that she had seen so many humans gathered at one place. Therefore, it was hard for her to curb her excitement. "Hello, young Miss Ling Fei," Bai Jingwei replied. "Brother Bai, who are we going to deal with?" Yi Shiwen jumped in and asked. He didn't let Ling Fei speak any further. Otherwise, she might mess things up if she had continued to speak. To be continued. Chapter 612. Chapter 612. "Brother Bai, who are we going to deal with?" The smile disappeared from Bai Jingwei's face. He then replied, "We have to deal with Shokuin of the 10,000 Beasts Villa." "You mean the Shokuin who's presently at the 6th position on the merit list?" Yi Shiwen asked incredulously. 10,000 Beasts Villa was a colossus force. However, it was neither located in the central region nor in the southern region. It was located in the far western region instead. They had been ruling the majority of western region for many years. However, the true martial university's disciples knew about the 10,000 Beasts Villa because the conflict between the true martial university and the 10,000 Beasts Villa wasn't just a day or two old. In fact, one would find that the 10,000 Beasts Villa was a part of the true martial university if they traced its roots. However, it was called 10,000 Beasts Hall back then. It was a subordinate wing of the true martial university, and had an outstanding reputation inside the university. It could be said that 70% to 80% of the battle-type spirit beasts of the true martial university were nurtured by the 10,000 Beasts Hall back then. So, they had a pivotal position in the true martial university. However, the lord of the 10,000 Beasts Hall was an ambitious person. He had carried most of the 10,000 Beasts Hall's experts far away to the western region, and had established the 10,000 Beasts Villa after the true Martial University had gradually declined. The 10,000 Beasts Villa had slowly developed with the passage of time, and it had now become an illustrious force in the true martial world. The 10,000 Beasts Hall had suddenly declined in the university after these elites had left. Consequently, this top-notch force had suddenly fallen behind many others. It had gone from being an outstanding inheritance in the true martial university to an imitation of its past self. It had simply become worthless. In fact, many disciples of the true martial university might not even know that the 10,000 Beasts Hall had ever existed in the university. The most authentic method of managing the beasts had also been taken away by the 10,000 Beasts Villa. Therefore, the remaining force had become a shell. The disciples of the true martial university hated the 10,000 Beasts Villa countless times more than the Xianyuan Palace Hall, even though the latter had been opposing the true martial university endlessly. Therefore, a battle of life or death was certain to break out between the true martial university and the 10,000 Beasts Villa if they came across each other. These were old grudges. However, there was a new enmity apart from these old grudges. After all, the 10,000 Beasts Villa had been trying to move southwards over the last few years. It wanted to expand its force in the entire southern region. The 10,000 Beasts Villa had split out from the true martial university. So, it had many spies in the southern region. These spies had been lurking for hundreds, or more than 1,000, or maybe even more than 10,000 years. But they had remained silent the entire time. However, they had unceasingly launched attacks after the 10,000 Beasts Villa had decided to enter the southern region. And this had given the true martial university a headache. A major war had never taken place between the two sides. However, small skirmishes had been happening unceasingly between the core disciples of the Sage Realm. New enmity, plus old grudges. How could they not wish to kill each other? Yishuan also got a headache when he thought of this. The true martial university had many enemies. However, every current big force hadn't been a subordinate of the true martial university back then. They had basically been rebels back in the day. In fact, there were a very few forces who had been sworn enemies of the true martial university in those days. This Shokun was undoubtedly the most outstanding disciple among all the disciples of the 10,000 Beasts Villa. He was the top-tier expert among all the core disciples. So, he was very famous in the true martial world. His fame was obviously very different from the kind that Yishuan enjoyed. After all, Yishuan was merely a new disciple at this time. He was indeed famous. However, people didn't care about him. After all, a large number of such people used to appear in every 100 years. However, an expert like Shokun was entirely different. He was a big personality whose name could shake an entire region. On top of that, he was about to enter the Great Sage Realm. He had managed to obtain the 6th position on the merit list. He had even surpassed Bai Jingwei. So, his strength was evident from this aspect alone. The ranking on the merit list didn't represent the ultimate ranking of strength. That was because some people were good at fighting alone, while others were expert in fighting in a group. These were two completely different concepts. However, anyone who had broken into top 20 positions or even top 50 positions must be a scary character standing at the peak of the late stage of half-step Great Sage's realm. And this also meant that they could enter the Great Sage realm at any time. "Yeah, it's him," Bai Jingwei replied in a deep voice. A fierce glint flashed in his eyes. "This person is quite powerful. However, he's also very shameless. Plus, he ought to be stronger than me." After all, he had reached the peak of the late stage of half-step Great Sage realm 1,000 years ago. Yishuan couldn't help but hold his breath as he heard this. Reached the peak of the late stage of half-step Great Sage realm 1,000 years ago? Wouldn't he be the same as people like Mu Xingjie and Huang Wuji in terms of cultivation time? However, Huang Wuji and Mu Xingjie had reached the Great Sage realm 1,000 years ago. How is this guy still hovering over the late stage of half-step great sage realm? It doesn't make any sense. He was one of the famous Heaven's Pride experts back then. It is said that his accumulation has already completed. However, he hasn't promoted to the great sage realm, and has stayed in this realm. It's not the first time or second time that he has participated in the Devil World competition. He comes with an evil scheme for the disciples of our true Martial University every time. Many brilliant young disciples of our university have fallen at his hands. In fact, almost all our disciples had been killed by him one time. Bai Jingwei was brimming with murderous aura when he was speaking. Our university has spies in their 10,000 Beasts villa. And those spies believe that this might be the last time that Shokun is participating in the Devil World competition. He'll return to the closed-door training, and make the breakthrough into Great Sage Realm after the end of the competition. He has excellent background. So, I'm afraid that he will make another breakthrough in quick succession. And this means that he will reach an extremely profound level within the Great Sage Realm if he were allowed to make this breakthrough. Then, I won't be able to deal with him even if I enter the Great Sage Realm as well. Only Brother Huang Wuji or Brother Mu Xingjia might be able to deal with him after that happens. Yishiwen nodded. That Shokun must have entered the late stage of half-step Great Sage Realm 1,000 years ago if this information is correct. How terrifying would it be if his accumulation of 1,000 years burst out at once? He'll be far above an average Great Sage even if he wouldn't be able to contend against people like Mu Xingjia and Huang Wuji. He finally understood why Bai Jingwei was insisting on killing Shokun at this time. After all, Shokun's cultivation was extremely profound. So, an ordinary expert of late stage of half-step Great Sage Realm might not be able to withstand even a single move from him. However, he was basically still in the half-step Great Sage Realm. It was quite difficult to deal with him. However, it wasn't impossible. However, the disparity between Shokun and Bai Jingwei would increase very quickly once Shokun entered the Great Sage Realm. After all, Shokun's accumulation was 1,000 years ahead of Bai Jingwei. It might not reflect at this time. However, it would manifest once he entered the Great Sage Realm. Therefore, Bai Jingwei might not get another opportunity if he didn't launch an attack at this time. Bai Jingwei was a top-tier Heaven's Pride expert. However, Shokun wasn't any less talented. Moreover, he also had an accumulation of almost 1,000 years. Therefore, Bai Jingwei might not get another opportunity to take revenge in his entire lifetime, unless a miracle happened. Yishiwen clearly knew that Bai Jingwei was loyal and devoted to the university. Any person or force that opposed the university would become a thorn in Bai Jingwei's eyes. And he would wish to kill them with his own hands. He is slaughtering in big numbers since he is participating in the Devil World competition for the last time. A news has recently arrived that more than 5 Heaven's Pride experts have met a violent deaths at his hands. All those experts had been among the top 100 people on the merit list. It is said that his gaze is fixed on our true Martial University. Therefore, I have no choice but to attack in advance. I must put him down before he poses any threat to the disciples of our university, Bai Jingwei coldly said. His strength hadn't been enough in the previous Devil World competition. It hadn't been enough to cause any threat to Shokun. However, this was the first time that his strength had reached very close to that of Shokun. Moreover, it might also be his last opportunity. So, there was no way that he wouldn't give it everything he had. Yi Zaiwen's complexion also turned serious. So this is the case. Then, it is necessary to launch an attack on Shokun and kill him in advance. Otherwise, it'll be a huge threat for the true Martial University's disciples. An ominous glint flickered in Yi Zaiwen's eyes. He'll even use the Star Colossus avatar if needed. The 10,000 Beasts Villa excels in the method of controlling the beasts. Brother Bai, we have to first sweep away the devil beasts present in the vicinity. Otherwise, I'm afraid that Shokun will make use of these devil beasts, Yishiwen said. The 10,000 Beasts Villa had split up from True Martial University's 10,000 Beasts Hall. It had already separated. However, the true martial university's people were fully aware of the various secret martial arts techniques of the 10,000 Beasts Hall. The scariest one among their techniques was the method of controlling beasts. Therefore, it would be a big disaster if the enemy spotted the devil beasts, ominous beasts, and so on in the vicinity. The enemy had already trained several spirit beasts for battle. Moreover, the other ominous beasts and devil beasts present in the surroundings could also be exploited by them. Those beasts wouldn't be as good as the spirit beasts they had raised and trained in person. However, they still couldn't be underestimated. Bai Jingwei was wiping out those beasts in order to avoid any mishap, and to reduce Shou Kun's fighting prowess. Bai Jingwei had been on expeditions for many years. So, it could be said that he was very experienced. Therefore, he must have thought about these things in advance. Bai Jingwei explained a few things to Yishiwen. Then, he once again joined his team, which was wiping out the devil beasts. He even expanded the scope of slaughtering this time. What's wrong, Yishiwen? Do you need me, your great master? I'll help you. How powerful can an expert of the late stage of half-step great sage realm be? I'll kill him in one slap. Ling Fei brandished her small fist, and proudly looked at Yishiwen. It seemed from her appearance that she was trying to say, I'll help you if you need me. Yiziwen's face turned dark. He was afraid that Ling Fei might refer to herself as his master in front of everyone. Yishiwen hadn't agreed to be her pet. However, Ling Fei would still address herself as his master from time to time. She didn't have any evil intentions behind it. However, it made Yishiwen feel at a loss. I don't need your help. Yishiwen shook his head. How could he possibly let Ling Fei fight in front of so many people? He turned around, and joined Bai Jingwei's group in wiping out those devil beasts. Not even a day had passed when another familiar figure arrived with a group of people. It was none other than Gao Lingxiu. She had disappeared for several months. However, she looked even more confident now since she had had some experience in the devil world. To be continued. Chapter 613. Chapter 613, Mission Exposed. Sister Gao, I haven't seen you for the last few months. Your martial power has advanced very significantly. Congratulations. Yishiwen cupped his hands in obeisance, and said. Gao Lingxiu was still in the sage accomplished realm. It appeared that her realm hadn't changed. However, how could her recent progress be concealed from Yishiwen? Brother Yi hasn't come across a small change either. Congratulations to you as well. Gao Lingxiu replied with a smile. She could also see that Yishiwen had become even more powerful. The experts who stood behind Gao Lingxiu also looked at Yishiwen somewhat incredulously. After all, they hadn't expected that they would see him alive. Yishiwen had refused to join their group back then. And many people had thought that he was overestimating his capabilities. In fact, they believed that he was courting death. However, they saw that Yishiwen was alive and well. Moreover, he had clearly become more powerful. This obviously made them a bit depressed. So, he has a hidden trump after all. It's no wonder that he's so haughty. Sister Gao, I feel reassured in my heart since you've arrived. Bai Jingwei smiled and said. Yishiwen was a bit surprised. Bai Jingwei has said these words as a courtesy. However, it is clear that he thinks highly of Gao Lingxiu. In fact, it seems that he considers Gao Lingxiu as his equal. He clearly isn't treating her like an ordinary sage expert. Yishiwen also looked at Gao Lingxiu's rank on the merit list after he thought this. She had stormed into the top 20 positions. She had obtained the 18th rank. She hadn't made it to the top 10. However, everyone apart from her in the top 100 ranking on the merit list was a peak expert of the late stage of half-step great sage realm. It was clearly visible from this that she had tyrannical strength. As for a nonentity like Yishiwen who was ranked among thousands, there was nothing to say. Brother Yi, who is this? Gao Lingxiu looked at Ling Fei. Ling Fei was beside Yishiwen. We want to launch an ambush on Shou Kun this time. So, we must execute this matter secretly. After all, the consequences would be too dire if Shokun got even a sniff of it. He might bring a group of 10,000 Beasts Villas people and launch a surprise attack on us instead. There isn't any problem with people who are with Bai Jingwei. Yi Shiwen is also trustworthy. Otherwise, Bai Jingwei wouldn't have called him. However, who is this person beside him? She doesn't look to be from the true martial university. This is... Yi Shiwen had a headache as to how to introduce Ling Fei. He knew Gao Lingxiu's intention behind asking about Ling Fei. This operation was very confidential, so not everyone could participate in it. However, Yi Shiwen had been invited. So, this proved that he was a reliable man in their opinion. Therefore, Yi Shiwen had agreed without any hesitation when he had received the invitation. This was also a kind of affirmation that he wouldn't keep himself away from joining the core army of the true martial university forever. He already had a very bad relation with the law enforcement hall. So, it was impossible for him to stay away from joining the main army of the university eternally. He would eventually integrate into them, just like he had fully integrated into the Hidden Star Peak now. His friend! Ling Fei didn't give Yi Shiwen much time to think. She stepped forward on her own accord and replied. Yi Shiwen could clearly see a smiling expression in Ling Fei's eyes. It was a rather complacent look. My name is Ling Fei. I'm very powerful. Ling Fei waved her small fist to show a sense of strength as she spoke. It seemed as if she wanted to show off her power. However, it was clear that the result wasn't good. Other people didn't believe that Ling Fei was truly a powerful expert by looking at her. She had entered the devil world. So, she obviously wasn't a weakling. However, she didn't look capable enough in front of these elites. Therefore, they didn't pay too much attention to her. She was Yi Zaiwen's friend. So, there would surely be no problem. After all, they believed that Yi Shiwen wouldn't be this irresponsible with respect to this matter. He obviously wouldn't have brought along just anyone in confusion. He would have considered everything. Ling Fei became anxious when she saw that nobody believed her. I'm truly very powerful. Very, very powerful. Okay, everyone knows that you're very powerful. Ling Fei was planning to reveal her true strength to prove that her words weren't empty. But Yi Shiwen couldn't stand by idly and watch. He promptly pulled her towards himself and cracked a joke. There would be no pressure on these people who are here on the mission if I let this little devil reveal her powers. According to the news that I've obtained, Shokun will pass from here after a few days. We can attack and kill him at that time. I've also invited a member of the Heavenly Punishment faction for this task. Bai Jingwei shot a glance at Yi Shiwen as he said. He felt a bit embarrassed. After all, everyone knew about the conflict between Yi Shiwen and the Law Enforcement Hall. Therefore, it was quite difficult to say that whether they would attack Yi Shiwen or not if they appeared. However, it also wasn't that easy to launch a surprise attack on Shokun. An ordinary expert of the late stage of half-step Great Sage realm couldn't match his fighting prowess. So, the Heavenly Punishment faction's fighting prowess would have a very important role in this mission. However, Bai Jingwei had already invited Yi Shiwen before. Therefore, this had formed a huge contradiction. Brother Yi can leave if he feels inconvenienced, Bai Jingwei said. Bai Jingwei would lose a little strength if Yi Shiwen left. However, he would lose a backbone if he lost the Heavenly Punishment faction. He had calculated this thing. However, he believed that nothing was more important than the university. So, he wouldn't hesitate even if Yi Shiwen got offended as a result. I don't mind, Yi Shiwen replied. He was very wary of the Heavenly Punishment faction. However, they wouldn't be able to kill him even if they attacked. So, there was nothing to fear. Bai Jingwei let out a sigh of relief when he saw that Yi Shiwen wasn't bothered about it. He said, Brother Yi is very broad-minded. I want to thank you on behalf of all the disciples of the university. Yi Shiwen promptly replied, It's nothing. Brother Bai needn't do so. Bai Jingwei could lay down his own dignity for the university. So, what could Yishuin complain about? Yishuin could only put aside any grudges that he might have because of Bai Jingwei's decision. Meanwhile, Yishuin suddenly became scared. Bursts of evil wind blew down from the sky. A giant claw of a beast fell from the sky to grab everyone. Oh no! Everyone pay attention! There's a danger! Bai Jingwei roared. Everyone else also saw that a giant claw was coming down towards them. Bai Jingwei had the highest martial power among the people here, apart from Ling Fei. Divine beams immediately emitted from his hands, and curled everyone in. Then, he suddenly retreated a dozen miles along with everyone under his protection, and evaded the surprise attack of that giant claw. Rumble! The giant claw smashed down on the ground where everyone had been standing a moment ago. A huge hole was formed, and the space exploded. The might of this claw made everyone terrified. It was hard to imagine. This is White Phoenix Demon Claw! Bai Jingwei's complexion became exceptionally ugly. Shokun, come out for me! His mood immediately sank to the bottom. White Phoenix Demon Claw was the martial technique of the 10,000 Beasts Villa. There were certain records of this technique in the True Martial University. As per the rumors, a senior of the 10,000 Beasts Hall had created this technique back in time. He had comprehended this claw technique after he had accidentally gotten involved in a fight with a white phoenix. It was one of the secret techniques of the True Martial University. It wasn't passed on to outsiders. It was a very confidential technique. There weren't many people in the present generation of the 10,000 Beasts Villa who had obtained the inheritance of the White Phoenix Demon Claw. In fact, there no one besides Shokun who could have the skill to inherit it. Bai Jingwei had made thousands of plans in order to keep this mission a secret. However, it had gotten leaked in the end. In fact, it hadn't just leaked out. Shokun had launched a surprise attack in advance, and that too at a time when that member of the Heavenly Punishment faction hadn't arrived. Bai Jingwei was obviously contemptuous towards Shokun's character. However, he had never denied his strength. He couldn't dare to say that he would win easily even if he and Gao Lingxiu attacked him at the same time. Ha 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 ha! It's very funny. Bai Jingwei, I hadn't expected that you would dare to scheme against me. A huge figure appeared in the sky. It was a hill-sized ferocious tiger. Its entire body was as white as snow, and a pair of wings were protruding out of its ribs. It was floating in the sky. Its 4 claws vigorously grabbed the sky of the devil world, and ripped a huge crack in it. The crack wouldn't restore for a very long time. The scene was exceptionally dreadful. A tall man was standing on the forehead of this giant spirit tiger. He looked to be in his 30s. He was dressed in flashy clothes. His square face was filled with a disdainful expression. Humph! You've dared to attack the disciples of our university? You should have known that this day would come. Bai Jingwei snorted and replied. Someone like you thinks that he can kill me? Do you know who you're talking to? That tall man was Shokun. He opened his round eyes wide. He looked a bit sinister. I've heard that you are loyal and devoted to the True Martial University. But you've dared to think of killing me this time? You were a non-entity in the previous Devil World competitions. You were just like an ant in front of me. But you've dared to do this now? It seems that you've grown audacious. Bai Jingwei was ranked 9th on the merit list. However, Shokun didn't pay attention to him. Instead, he had treated him like an insignificant non-entity. However, Bai Jingwei had indeed been a non-entity when Shokun had become famous in the true martial world. Only people like Huang Wuji and Mu Xingjie could be compared to him. He didn't pay attention to other people. What was Bai Jingwei? You're too negligent. You've dared to come alone. You're just an expert of half-step great sage realm even though you've cultivated for many more years than me. Had you thought that you'd come here and just walk away? Bai Jingwei calmly said. Everything had already been seen through. Their target had knocked on their door with the intention of looking for a fight. So, they might as well give it to him. There wasn't enough time to set up matrix formations, and there was very little assurance of their operation's success. However, it didn't mean that there was no chance at all. Humph! Who do you think you are? You're just an insignificant youth, and you dare to act presumptuously in front of me. I can eliminate you in one stroke! Shokun snorted. He simply disregarded him. He didn't even pay attention to this group of people. They were in the same realm of the late stage of half-step great sage as he was. However, there was a difference of heaven and earth between their strength and his. Brother Sho can surely clean up these small fries alone. However, it would be better if we act quickly. I've heard that a member of the Heavenly Punishment faction is also coming. He might arrive before we're done if we don't act quickly. Suddenly, another brash-sounding voice came from the sky. To be continued. Chapter 614. Chapter 614. Yishuan steps into action. The voice hadn't even faded when a tall and slim figure appeared in front of everyone. He was a middle-aged man, and he was dressed in a magnificent robe. In fact, his clothes looked exceptionally luxurious. Li Yifeng from Xianyuan Palace Hall! Bai Jingwei's eyes turned gloomy as he looked at the man before him. Yishuan had heard that this was another top expert who was placed among the top 20 experts on the merit list. In fact, Li Yifeng of Xianyuan Palace Hall was on the 14th position on the merit list at the moment. So, he was more powerful than Gao Lingxiu. Li Yifeng used to be a Heaven's Pride expert of Xianyuan Palace Hall many years ago. Thereafter, he had reached among the core disciples whilst killing his peers along the way. He was a top figure. He was one of the 2 leading core disciples whom Xianyuan Palace Hall had sent this time. There had been no problem initially since only Shokun had been here. However, everyone's heart sank with Li Yifeng's arrival. These 2 individuals were more powerful than the combination of Bai Jingwei and Gao Lingxiu. Moreover, there were blurred figures of a dozen or so experts of the late stage of half-step great sage realm behind them. They belonged to the 10,000 Beasts Villa in Xianyuan Palace Hall. There weren't many people, only a dozen senior experts. However, the elites of the 2 big forces had come out. It's ridiculous. You've dared to conspire against our brother Shou? Have you ever seen someone scheming against our brother Shou? A disciple of the 10,000 Beasts Villa arrogantly said. He was looking at Bai Jingwei and the others in a manner that made it seem as if he was looking at dead people. I wanted to deal with all of you one by one. However, this is also a good option. Half of the true Martial University would collapse if the 2 of us were to join forces in order to wipe them out. Shokun had ample killing intention, as he said. Many small groups of the true Martial University had arrived here this time. There were many geniuses in those groups. However, the most outstanding experts were that member of the Heavenly Punishment faction, Bai Jingwei, and Gao Lingxiu. Therefore, it wouldn't be wrong to say that half of the strength of the true Martial University's team would collapse if Bai Jingwei and Gao Lingxiu got killed here. Brother Shou, let's start at once. I'll handle Gao Lingxiu. I give that ignorant Bai Jingwei to you. The rest of our disciples will handle the others, Li Yifeng said. I can exterminate them alone. Shokun let out a cruel smile. However, he didn't oppose the proposal. The true Martial University's people weren't weak. So, there was no certainty that he alone would be able to kill them before that member of the Heavenly Punishment faction arrived. And things would turn out bad for him if that happened. Even he was a bit afraid of that bunch of monsters, the legendary Heavenly Punishment faction. Bai Jingwei's complexion turned ugly. Have they already considered us dead? Have they already given their verdict? He. They'll take care of Gao Lingxiu. I've heard that she's hiding a big secret on her body. Even a foreign force like the Emergence School is coveting her. Li Yifeng laughed mischievously as he looked at Gao Lingxiu. His avaricious eyes made Gao Lingxiu frown. Yushuan was thinking how to deal with these people. Suddenly, Bai Jingwei's voice reverberated in his mind. Brother Yi, I hadn't anticipated that they would find some hints about our plan. You should walk away when the fight starts. I know your speed is very fast. So, you would be able to escape. Also, take Sister Gao along with you. Let me handle this situation. I'll hold them up here. Brother Bai, you can't deal with these two individuals on your own, Yi Shiwen replied. Bai Jingwei's words couldn't deceive him. I may not be able to deal with them. However, I can hold them here. I can't defeat them. However, I'm sure that they can't kill me either, Bai Jingwei said. He seemed very confident. Relax, leave them to me. I won't let any of them leave this place. Not a single one of them will escape, Yi Shiwen coldly said. He stepped forward as he spoke up. The murderous intent had already risen in Yi Zaiwen's heart. Shokuin and Li Feng looked at Yi Shiwen in disbelief. They didn't know from where this ignorant boy had come out. Even Bai Jingwei couldn't dare to say that he could kill both of them. So, who in the world was this boy to dare claiming this? This guy is insane. He has dared to say that he'll keep all of us here. Li Feng was stunned. He still thought that he had misheard him. This guy is extremely daring and unruly. He's indeed quite arrogant. Only such mad disciples are left in the true martial university now. So, how would it not decline? They themselves are responsible for this. Shokuin sneered and said. Bang! That hill-sized huge tiger under Shokun's feet finally moved at this time. A giant tiger's claw suddenly swept down towards Yi Shiwen to grab him. It seemed as if it would tear this unruly guy into two halves. A ferocious beast's aura spread overwhelmingly. It seemed as if this claw would rip apart the entire world. This spirit beast also possessed the strength of the late stage of half-step Great Sage Realm. In fact, it was far more powerful than an ordinary expert of the late stage of half-step Great Sage Realm. Many people were quite afraid of the people of the 10,000 Beasts Villa. This was because they and their pet spirit beasts would grow up together from childhood. Therefore, fighting with one of them was equal to fighting two people at the same time. Shokun was already very hard to deal with. And he had a powerful spirit beast on top of that. Bai Jingwei had set up a trap to deal with only Shokun. However, he had still invited Gao Lingxiu and that member of the Heavenly Punishment faction. Moreover, he even wanted to lay out all kinds of matrix barriers in order to be absolutely safe. Yi Shiwen stood still. Endless divinities emitted from his entire body, and illuminated the world in an instant. Half of the sky had been covered by his divinities. Then, Yi Zaiwen's figure suddenly disappeared. And he got replaced by the Star Colossus avatar when he reappeared. A pair of murderous eyes filled with bloodthirst and killing intent curled up in a ruthless mood. And the endless void in the sky distorted under the bombardment of this gaze. Countless primary spirit dawns streamed out from the heavenly source mirror. They flew in midair and began to burn. They then transformed into spirit energies, and frantically instilled into Yi Zaiwen's body. Yi Zaiwen's aura surged up as the endless spirit energies began to enter his body. It seemed as if a dead person had suddenly come back to life. His aura went against all the rules of the world as it violently surged up. It seemed as if he had directly made a breakthrough into the half-step Great Sage Realm from the Sage Realm. Yi Shiwen found that he had suddenly become even more ferocious and bloodthirsty after he had replaced his body with that of a Star Colossus. This had happened because of the militant factor. After all, the cruel addiction for slaughtering was present inside every cell of the Star Colossus body. A heaven-startling sword rainbow suddenly blazed out from his hand, and soared into the sky. It then formed a huge sword column in the sky. The buried sword secret technique had begun to boil in his hand. Yi Zaiwen's sword energy traveled in the sky like a rainbow, and shattered that huge tiger's attack. That tiger's attack got smashed. Also, a huge black crack opened in the middle of the sky. The black crack then spread out in all directions in the sky, just like a spider's web. His current energy consumption was much smaller than the time when he had displayed the power of the Great Sage Realm. The present consumption was small. However, more than 100 million primary spirit dawn were still required for fighting just once. It must be mentioned that this would exhaust nearly the entire wealth of an expert of the half-step great sage realm. In fact, this price was so huge that even a rich person like Yishiwen wouldn't agree to pay this price with ease. The primary spirit dawn would start to flow out like running water if he promoted the fighting prowess of the Star Colossus avatar to the great sage realm. Roar! The huge tiger screamed. Its claw was drenched with blood. After all, nearly its entire claw had been cut off by Yishiwen. So, blood was splashing out like a fountain from it. Good boy. I've underestimated you. Shokun's vision turned even colder as he stood on that huge tiger. It seemed as if a beast god had reincarnated from ancient times. This beast god was emitting a valiant aura. His chaotic and barbaric aura was boiling. The phantom of a chaotic beast god immediately formed behind him. It then looked up to the sky and roared. Then, the dark club made up of wolf teeth suddenly pounded down upon Yizaiwen's body. Boy, I don't know what method you're using to promote your strength. But what would you do about the disparity? Do you even understand what disparity is? I believe that you're just an ant, an overreaching ant. Shokun's ice-cold, ruthless voice fell along with that dark club. That wolf-teeth club transformed into a huge wolf head when it was about to arrive in front of Yishiwen. It then suddenly opened its mouth wide, sucked in the energy in the atmosphere, and transformed them into a huge energy ball. This energy ball then smashed down. Bang! That huge energy ball suddenly smashed down upon Yizaiwen's body. A huge mushroom cloud rose up from the scene. It was very dreadful. An incomparably terrifying force was released. And this force then swept across in all directions. The terrifying power disintegrated the void, and the space of the devil world shattered into pieces like a mirror. Those experts looked at this scene in a daze. Shokun is way too powerful. How can an expert of the half-step great sage realm launch such an attack? The complexions of the true Martial University's disciples suddenly turned deathly pale when they saw that Yizaiwen's entire body had been engulfed by the explosion. It didn't matter whether they liked Yishiwen or not. After all, he was fighting for them at this time. Therefore, it was impossible that they would disregard him. Bai Jingwei and Gao Lingxiu were just about to begin. However, Li Feng blocked them. He sneered and said while looking at both of them, "In your opponent. And he is screwed. Nobody can come out alive from that attack. All of you will die today." Ling Fei was the only one present who wasn't worried. After all, her martial power was unfathomably profound. An ordinary person couldn't see what had become of Yishiwen. However, she had clearly understood everything by having a mere glance at the situation. You're an ant without any reputation. So, you should feel privileged to die by my hands. Shokun's expression was ice-cold. It seemed as if he was just smashing an ant. He didn't care even a bit. The smoke and dust dissipated, and a figure appeared before everyone. Everyone was left in shock when they saw the scene before their eyes. Even the molecules of air should have been blown away by that attack. The space had gotten annihilated. So, how could a person have survived this? Is this all you've got? To be continued. Chapter 615. Shokun is too powerful. He deserves to be called a contemporary to Huang Wuji and Mu Xingjie. He hasn't advanced to a higher realm in so many years. However, his martial power has become incredibly profound because of the accumulation of so many years. Perhaps, he'll become a powerhouse of the great sage realm if he were to make a breakthrough. He's a great core disciple of the 10,000 Beasts Villa. So, he has inherited many martial techniques that are impossible for many other disciples. This is hateful. These techniques should belong to our university. These damned traitors. Shokun's fighting prowess had left everyone in shock. They might have been exploded in just one move if they had come across such fighting prowess in Yizaiwen's place. Even Bai Jing Weiss and Gao Lingxiu's complexions had turned unsightly at this time. It wasn't that they hadn't anticipated Shokun's fighting prowess. They indeed had. In fact, that's why they had wanted to take numerous precautions. It was just that they hadn't gotten enough time to take these precautions since Shokun had arrived out of nowhere. Meanwhile, the people of the 10,000 Beasts Villa and Xian Yuan Palace Hall were looking excited. It was clear that Shokun's fighting prowess had boosted their morale enormously. Especially, the 10,000 Beasts Villa's people were even more encouraged. Some of them were participating in the Devil World competition for the first time. However, they believed that they would triumph in every battle as long as they followed Shokun. "Is this all you've got?" A cold voice suddenly resounded. Then, a figure slowly appeared in front of everyone as the dust settled. Everyone opened their eyes wide. It was Yi Shiwen. He had survived. He hadn't died even after he had taken such a terrifying attack head-on. Such vitality was far greater than normal. Yi Zaiwen's expression was ice-cold. Shokun's recent attack had been very dreadful, so much so that an ordinary expert of the late stage of half-step Great Sage realm would have exploded on the spot. Even Bai Jingwei and the others might have sustained injuries if they had come across such an attack. However, Yi Zaiwen's body was extremely formidable. Moreover, the body of the Star Colossus avatar was even tougher than that of its master. In fact, the toughness of its body must be far beyond Great Sage level. It was extremely dreadful. Shokun suddenly narrowed his eyes. He hadn't anticipated that Yi Shiwen would survive. He had been very confident about his martial arts technique. However, Yi Shiwen was still alive and kicking. This was a big insult for him. Shokun was well aware of his humiliation. So, he immediately became angry. The beastly aura of his entire body skyrocketed. And his figure suddenly became even more ethereal. He looked like a legendary beast god. His aura became more tyrannical with every step that he took. The inexhaustible devil energy in the surroundings was swept away by him, and he suddenly transformed into a demon god. The void in the vicinity transformed into a country of beasts in this moment. And he was the only god in this country. He didn't hesitate as he faced Yi Shiwen, whose figure was gradually emerging from the dust and smoke. A hand stretched out, and his palm transformed into a chicken claw. However, it wasn't an ordinary chicken claw. It was a silver-white claw of a real phoenix. In fact, it seemed as if the claw had been casted with silver. It emitted dark and cold rays of light amidst the glowing glaze of the devil energy. It seemed as if this claw would extinguish the world in a split second. It ripped apart a huge crack in the sky. This crack then swept out in all directions, and left the entire world to shake. This claw then grasped toward Yi Zaiwen's head. It seemed as if it would smash it. Yi Shiwen had thoroughly angered him. This was clear from the fact that he hadn't held back in this attack. Humph! Yi Shiwen attacked. There was an austere killing intent in his eyes. He was determined to make the Star Colossus avatar go into action this time. He had even contemplated the idea of killing all of them. Otherwise, the price of 100 million primary spirit dawn would be too great a waste. Fire clouds falling sky hand! Yi Shiwen suddenly set out. A fiery big hand covered half of the sky, and went up to make a counterattack. It swept out fire-colored energy pillars that rose to the sky. Both sides' attacks ferociously collided in the sky. And an incredibly dreadful force swept out the next moment. The energy waves unleashed by them collided in the sky. Tremendous energy waves, one red and one white, were grinding each other in the sky. The places that came in contact with these waves got swallowed by them. It was a very terrifying scene. Shokun coldly snorted. The sound waves proliferated in all directions just like the sound of a big bell. He then marched forward, taking large strides. The silver waves once again began to boil. They seemed to possess even more power than before. Both sides had looked evenly matched at first. However, it suddenly seemed that Shokun would overpower Yi Shiwen. Then, the dense silver waves smashed down. Yi Shiwen unceasingly swayed like a small boat in a tempest under the influence of this dreadful power. In fact, it seemed as if he would collapse any moment. Shokun's dreadful strength had been revealed. he wasn't a great sage. However, his accumulation was many years old. So, he could be considered as a peerless expert under the great sage realm. Bai Jingwei and the other people were also very powerful. However, Yi Shiwen could feel that the foundation of 1,000-years-old fogey like Shou Kun was much stronger than theirs. This was a one-of-a-kind accumulation. Any celestial genius could accelerate the accumulation. However, accelerated accumulation and long-term accumulation weren't the same thing. In fact, even the celestial geniuses required to accumulate. Otherwise, they wouldn't be a match even for an ordinary person. And Shou Kun was someone whose accumulation had become profound to a scary extent. Moreover, he was a Heaven's Pride expert as well. So, he had both talent and accumulation. An ordinary expert couldn't even come close. He could almost be weighed as the strongest in the half-stepped great sage realm. Therefore, he had never paid attention to anyone, and had been unscrupulous his entire life. He could effortlessly slaughter a few senior Heaven's Pride experts. And the true Martial University was his current target. That's why Bai Jingwei had no choice but to launch an attack on him in advance. In fact, this was the main reason why Bai Jingwei had wanted to attack him. Yi Zaiwen's flaming red rays of light spread wide. It seemed as if a dreadful power was boiling within. A barbarian god had condensed behind him. It seemed as if the surrounding area had transformed into a world of barbarians. The beast suddenly performed a long-range raid from the world of beasts unleashed by Shou Kun, and burst into the barbarian world. Countless barbarian experts were holding all kinds of weapons in the barbarian world. They began to kill the crowd of beasts that had arrived in their world. This was a competition between the embodiments of two martial concepts. Shou Kun's profound essence of the 10,000 Beasts Villa's heritage had given birth to the phantom of a beast god. However, Yi Shiwen was more ferocious than him. Yi Zaiwen's martial way had reached beyond an ordinary person's comprehension. Especially, the fire cloud's falling sky hand had been deduced to the peak by him within a short time after it had fallen into his hands. Even the fire cloud cave's lord wouldn't have such a strong understanding of this technique. Bang! Both worlds were crushing and engulfing each other. A scene of doomsday had evolved in the sky. It seemed like the end of the world, like the dusk of gods. Two gods suddenly collided in the sky, each of them commanded a country. The edges of both worlds collapsed in the collision. Countless beasts and barbarian experts bellowed and clashed. Bloody battles were going on everywhere. The spectators were left dumbstruck. Is this a battle of gods? The fight between the two men appeared to be a reenactment of the fight between the gods. Both sides were using incredible methods that had been passed by the two ancient gods. It seemed that the contest between both methods was taking place via the hands of these two individuals after a period of countless years. The winner and loser among the two gods would be decided in this manner. How can he be so powerful? Li Feng looked at the two men involved in this intense fight. The expression on his face had turned frantic. He had agreed to arrive here and team up with Shou Kun in order to deal with Bai Jingwei and Gao Lingxiu. But wasn't it because of Shou Kun's incredible strength? Shou Kun had obtained the 6th rank on the merit list. He hadn't broken into the top 3. However, Li Feng knew that Shou Kun had the strength to be ranked in the top 3. It was just that the most crucial time hadn't arrived yet. And nobody wanted to reveal their entire strength before that time. The experts who occupied the top 20 positions on the merit list would begin to frantically slaughter the devil experts at the last moment. And they would crazily earn points at that time. So, that would be the time to see the results. Shou Kun had the strength to aspire for the top position. In fact, he had also shown interest in this. However, Li Feng had never anticipated that a random person of the true martial university would appear out of nowhere and stop Shou Kun. The situation had changed after their biggest support had been blocked. So, Li Feng must face Bai Jingwei and Gao Lingxiu alone now. And it was an entirely disadvantageous situation for him. He would have had an advantage if he were fighting just Gao Lingxiu. However, he would fall into a disadvantageous position while facing Bai Jingwei. After all, Bai Jingwei was much more powerful than Gao Lingxiu. However, he had to face both of these individuals at the same time now. Other people also felt the same. How can he be so ferocious? They felt as if a god had descended to the world as they witnessed Yi Ziwen's intrepid strength. However, they didn't know that Yi Shiwen had kept his real strength suppressed. In fact, he could have been countless times more powerful than present. Meanwhile, Ling Fei was excitedly watching the fight between the teams of Shou Kun and Yi Shiwen. Her beautiful eyes shone brightly. It seemed as if she had never seen a fight between people before. She was brandishing her small fist in excitement. In fact, she even wanted to replace Yi Shiwen and go fight herself. She would have gone up and taught a lesson to Shou Kun if Yi Shiwen hadn't prohibited her from revealing her strength. She would have told everyone that she believed that Shou Kun was extremely ugly, and deserved to be taught a lesson. Yi Ziwen's voice sounded amidst the battle. "Brother, leave this to me. You don't need to worry." Yi Ziwen's words had made everyone feel that he was incomparably arrogant and boastful when he had spoken out before the battle had started. However, his current words had made them feel incomparably relaxed. And this was because they had seen that he truly had enough tyrannical strength to back up his words. "Everyone attack! Kill these traitors! Let them know how serious a crime it is to betray our university!" Bai Jingwei roared. Several disciples of the true martial university became excited. Some of the people in the opposite party used to be their juniors, while some used to their comrades. However, all of them were now traitors in their opinion. Moreover, Shou Kun had been blocked. Therefore, the opposite party was very easy to handle now. The morale of the true martial university's disciples had been boosted. However, the complexions of the disciples of the 10,000 Beasts Villa and the Xianyuan Palace Hall had also undergone a big change. To be continued. Chapter 616. Chapter 616, entirely one-sided. Die. Several experts of the true martial university had waged war on the disciples of the 10,000 Beasts Villa and the Xianyuan Palace Hall under Bai Jingwei's leadership. "Ha!" Gao Lingxiu shouted. She then attacked with her long sword. It transformed into a sword light, and covered half of the sky. Puff! Bang! Ding! Various kinds of sounds were heard. And many experts of the Xianyuan Palace Hall and the 10,000 Beasts Villa got annihilated in the sky. Gao Lingxiu had finally begun to reveal the dreadful fighting prowess of a sage accomplished level expert who had broken into the top 20 ranks on the merit list. Those experts who had previously looked ferocious collapsed at the first blow of her sword. They simply didn't have the power to fight back. "Stop!" Li Yifeng opened his round eyes wide. It seemed as if his eyes had almost split open, as if blood was dripping from them. After all, the disciples who were dying were the Xianyuan Palace Hall's elites. Not all of them were elites. However, at least half of their force would collapse if these people got annihilated. In fact, the Xianyuan Palace Hall would lose almost an entire generation if they lost all of these people. Such a thing had never happened in the very long history of the Xianyuan Palace Hall. The core disciples weren't the real force of Xianyuan Palace Hall. However, they would undoubtedly lose an entire generation if all of them got killed. Its impact might not become visible within a short time. However, it would become visible after several hundred or thousand years. Li Yifeng suddenly had an intense feeling as if something had smashed down from the front. He promptly moved back 100 meters in order to avoid this stunning blade energy. Bang! The blade energy smashed down on the bottom of the mountain like a dragon, and opened a huge gap. The ground trembled. It seemed to be wailing under this attack. Bai Jingwei. Li Yifeng instantly recognized this blade energy's owner. Sure enough, there was an ice-cold smiling expression on Bai Jingwei's face. His heart swelled with pride as he looked at Li Yifeng. They had been behaving arrogantly a moment ago. After all, There had been a possibility that the true martial university's team would get wiped out. However, the situation had reversed now. And it was their turn to crush them. Li Feng, am your opponent. Not a single person of the Xianyuan Palace Hall and the 10,000 Beasts Villa should think of walking away from here today. I won't let any of you leave this place. Bai Jingwei stepped forward whilst carrying the long blade after he said this. He instantly arrived in front of Li Feng to kill him. He had revealed the dreadful strength of a person who was ranked 9th on the merit list. It must be said that his reputation wasn't underserved in any manner. He was incomparably dreadful. It seemed as if the sun and moon had lost their light and the world had lost its color under this blade. He had used his entire strength. He was ranked above Li Feng. However, there wasn't much disparity between them. The disparity wasn't to an extent that one of them would be crushed by another. The opposite party would be able to make a comeback if one of them didn't take care. But Bai Jingwei had plentiful battle experience. So, how could he make such a mistake? Therefore, he had used his entire strength at once. Bai Jingwei's strength was above that of Li Feng. So, Li Feng would obviously respond with his entire strength whilst facing such a full-strength attack. Otherwise, he might be killed by Bai Jingwei if he wasn't careful. However, he couldn't attend to other people. So, the experts of 10,000 Beasts Villa and Xianyuan Palace Hall had quickly retreated in defeat since they didn't have the support of a powerhouse. Meanwhile, the morale of the true martial university's experts had gotten boosted enormously. So, they moved forward whilst slaughtering the entire way with Gao Ling Xiu spearheading the attack. Those experts of the 10,000 Beasts Villa and the Xianyuan Palace Hall had looked arrogant and despotic a while ago. But they were quickly getting transformed into corpses now. This feeling of satisfaction had made the true martial university's disciples very excited. They had gotten bullied by the opposite party earlier. But they were bullying them back now. This feeling was obviously a stark contrast with the previous one. Stop, you bastards! Blood almost tripped from Li Feng's eyes. These experts of Xianyuan Palace Hall were elites. Each of them had been nurtured with difficulty. People would regret the loss of even one of them. However, a large number of such experts had died. So, the vitality of his force had sustained a serious blow. However, how could Gao Ling Xiu stop her slaughtering because of Li Feng's words? They couldn't spare these people. Otherwise, it would be an irresponsible move on the part of the true martial university's disciples. Bang! A thunderous noise came through from another battlefield. It was the battlefield of Yishiwen and Shoukun. The competition of martial concepts between these two individuals made it seem as if two gods who commanded their own country had collided violently. In fact, they had seemingly broken into each other's domain. The winner and loser had finally been decided. Everyone could see that Shoukun's country of beasts had quickly collapsed. And Yi Zaiwen's country of barbarians had become even more powerful. Everyone was almost scared to death when they saw this scene. Yi Shiwen was only a non-entity of the Sage Great Perfection realm, while Shoukun was a top-tier expert of the late stage of half-step Great Sage realm. Moreover, Shoukun was ranked among the top 10 experts on the merit list. The disparity between the two sides was huge. However, Shoukun had been defeated with ease in this contest of understanding of martial arts. It was tantamount to saying that Shoukun's comprehension of martial arts was far inferior to that of Yishiwen. Moreover, everyone knew that Fire Cloud's Falling Sky Hand was a technique of southern barbarians, not of the true martial university. In other words, it was impossible for Yishiwen to obtain the traditional technique of Fire Cloud's Falling Sky Hand. Therefore, it was clear that Yishiwen had defeated Shoukun depending upon his self-study of this technique. This revelation had caused far greater impact on them than any other thing. A Sage Great Perfection level expert had routed an expert of the late stage of half-step Great Sage realm depending upon his understanding of martial arts. However, they didn't know that Yishiwen had a mysterious space for deducing techniques. His cultivation was far inferior to that of Shoukun. However, this didn't mean that his understanding of martial arts would also be inferior. The technique of fire clouds falling sky hand was an example of this. Even many great sage experts of the fire cloud cave wouldn't dare to say that they had a better understanding of this technique than Yi Shiwen did. Yi Shiwen commanded his country of barbarians just like a true deity, and smashed it down upon Shokun. Consequently, the dreadful pressure pressed down with an irresistible force. Shokun's feet had sunk into the head of the huge tiger he was standing on. That hill-sized fierce tiger was also roaring in pain at this time. It was also feeling the dreadful coercion that had smashed down from the sky. Yi Zaiwen's body had been replaced by the Star Colossus. It must be mentioned that the Star Colossus was an ominous beast that used to swallow planets for food. It was on top of the food chain of all demon beasts, devil beasts, and ominous beasts. It had restrained its aura. However, it had set out its instinctive coercion without any hesitation. Shokun's complexion had turned ashen. He was just watching Yi Shiwen pressing down upon him from the sky. How can he be so powerful? The real elemental energy of Shokun's entire body surged up in order to resist this dreadful force. Humph! Grovel before me! Yi Shiwen descended from the sky. A fist transformed into a huge star, and suppressed all directions. It was just like a collision of stars. Big Bang Stardust Fist. Almost the entire surroundings transformed into a void. It was the result of insane comprehension. The experts of the Xianyuan Palace Hall and the 10,000 Beasts Villa roared at this time. However, they didn't have any method to back Shokun up. In fact, they couldn't even reach close to Shokun. It had become difficult for them to protect themselves. So, there was no chance that they could rush to help Shokun. Everyone held their breath as they saw this scene unfold before their eyes. They were shocked in their hearts. It was like they were in a perilous situation. Shokun had great strength and illustrious reputation. It looked self-evident. There was no one here who could defeat him one-on-one. There were very few people even in big martial arts competitions who would dare to say that they could defeat Shokun one-on-one. It could be done only after using countless moves. Moreover, nobody could defeat Shokun in the crushing manner. However, Yi Shiwen had still pulled it off. Bang! The Big Bang Stardust Fist smashed down. Puchi! Shokun smashed his hands out. He felt a dreadful force being poured into his body as soon as he took the attack. He couldn't help but feel the taste of blood in his throat. He spouted a mouthful of blood essence, and his entire body went out flying upside down, like a kite with a broken string. Yi Shiwen was about to chase him down. However, he saw that huge tiger moving at this time. Its body was hill-sized. However, its speed was still very fast. It was extremely agile. Its speed and body didn't seem to be in harmony. It left a trail of afterimages in the sky as it pounced on Yi Shiwen. Its speed was incomparably fast for ordinary people. However, it still wasn't good enough in front of Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen stepped out. He wasn't the one to rush out first, but he had still arrived first. He had taken the lead to rush out and kill the enemy instead of letting the enemy do that to him. He arrived right in front of that fierce tiger. Then, he spread both of his hands. They transformed into two big energy hands, and rose against the wind. The big hands swept towards the wings of the tiger, and grabbed them. Tear! The loud and clear sound of something tearing sounded. The pair of that fierce tiger's huge wings had been torn by Yi Shiwen. Blood splashed out, and steamed down everywhere. Roar! The fierce tiger screamed. It had had these magical wings since its birth. However, those wings had now been torn apart by Yi Shiwen. The blood splashed everywhere. And the bone fragments swirled in the air. It was in an unbearable pain. Get out of my way! Yi Shiwen kicked it. His kick formed an afterimage of a whip in the sky, and tore through the air. Bang! The hill-sized body of that fierce tiger got blown away by Yi Zaiwen's one kick. My little pet! Shokun saw the wings of his partner being torn apart. This beast had been with him since childhood. However, it had been blown away by a kick. Moreover, it wasn't clear whether it was alive or dead. His eyes remained wide open in shock. There was a desire of tearing the opposite party into pieces in his eyes. He clenched his teeth so tightly that they almost shattered. He then said with his blood-stained mouth, "You'll pay the price for your actions!" Shokun roared. He was roaring like a wounded beast. The expression in his eyes became even more deadly. It awed everyone. He was the beast master even though he was wounded. So, how could an ordinary person be compared with him? Pay the price? Well said. It applies for old matters too. You've killed several disciples of our true martial university. So, it's the time for you to pay the price for your actions now. Yishiwen let out a sneer through the corner of his mouth. When it comes to retribution and whatnot, one must know that as many as 100 disciples of the true martial university had died at Shokun's hands. Moreover, those experts had been elites. So, they must be avenged. How can the trivial lives of those ants be on a par with me? The expression in Shokun's eyes became crazed. His eyes had become bloodshot. He looked like a crazed beast. It'll make you regret. I won't let you live. I won't let you die. It'll torture you every day and night. You'll die a pathetic death. Shokun's aura was still soaring unceasingly. It suddenly broke through the late stage of half-stepped Great Sage Realm, and entered the Great Sage Realm. To be continued. Chapter 617. Chapter 617. All counterattacks go in vain. Shokun had been hovering around the half-stepped Great Sage Realm for 1,000 years. Such accumulation had taken him to the front of the Great Sage Realm's threshold. In fact, he had only differed from the Great Sage Realm by an inch. Therefore, he could make the breakthrough as long as he would undergo a normal closed-door training. However, this was impossible for Bai Jingwei and the other people even though they were on the same level as him. So, one could well imagine how dreadful Shokun was. However, Shokun hadn't had any extra time for making a normal breakthrough at this time. He could only make the breakthrough forcibly. This breakthrough hadn't occurred because of comprehending something during the fight. Instead, it was the result of profound accumulation. Making a breakthrough forcibly in this way would certainly cause some injuries that would be hard to repair. In fact, it would cause immeasurable injuries in the future. However, how could Shokun care too much about this thing at this time? You act like man. You've thoroughly infuriated me. You'll die today. But you won't die alone. Soon, everyone in your true martial university will die. Our 10,000 beasts villa will sweep away the entire world. And I'll be the only god. Ha 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 ha! Shokun's power was still rising. He had reached the peak of the initial stage of the Great Sage Realm within a short time. His dreadful accumulation had finally revealed a terrifying might. Shokun suddenly launched an attack on Yishiwen. His speed had increased to the peak. He was clearly displaying the dreadful strength of the Great Sage Realm. Bang! Yishiwen was struck by a fist. And his body went out flying like a kite without string. Ha 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 ha! You damned ant! I won't let you live! I won't let you die! They'll take out your soul, and you'll suffer endless torture year after year! Shokun had gone insane. He looked just like a crazed beast. He has made a breakthrough! The hearts of true martial universities people sank as they saw Shokun's new form. It would have been very difficult to deal with Shokun even if he were still in the late stage of half-stepped Great Sage Realm. However, everyone would have had some confidence in that case. After all, there would have been quantitative disparity between them. But there wouldn't have been any qualitative disparity. However, the qualitative disparity had suddenly come into play after Shokun had made the breakthrough into Great Sage Realm. They had placed high hopes on Yishiwen. However, even he had been blown away in one blow. Such fighting prowess was enough to make them terrified. Bai Jingwei's complexion had changed significantly in particular. He was fighting Li Yifeng at present. After all, he hadn't expected that Shokun would make a breakthrough in this most crucial time. Ha ha ha! You'll meet your death today. True Martial University, ha ha ha, will soon be history. It will be reduced to a mere name. Li Feng laughed furiously. His spirits had lifted, as if he had suddenly risen to heaven from hell. This development had made him much more excited than a person on a roller coaster ride. Is this all you've got? You're such a disappointment. A clear and cold voice came from afar. Then, a boundless imposing aura soared to the sky, and smashed the endless clouds. Another great sage! Everyone was stunned. They had witnessed the appearance of two great sages in succession. The faces of the true Martial University's people exposed a look of excitement. And that was because this voice belonged to none other than Yishiwen, the same Yishiwen who had been blown away in one punch a moment ago. Yi Zaiwen's endless divinities surged about. They engulfed him, and transformed into a golden storm. A human figure was faintly visible standing inside this storm. Suddenly, everyone had an illusion. They felt as if this figure wasn't that of a human. It seemed that it was an exceptional ominous beast carrying a murderous aura. The bloody energy swept all across. Moreover, it seemed like a dreadful ominous beast of the great sage realm. And the inexhaustible spirit energies were boiling inside Yi Zaiwen's body. They then combusted and integrated into his body. Shokun had unexpectedly made the breakthrough into the great sage realm. This had forced Yishiwen to let go of the restriction, and make the Star Colossus avatar quickly break through into the great sage realm. 100 million primary spirit dawn had been burnt in order to put away the restriction. This price was unimaginable. Yishiwen looked at Shokun with eyes full of killing intention. Dai Yu Fu * King Ant? Yishiwen rushed out. His body suddenly transformed into a golden light along with a loud bang inside the void. However, it was obviously just an afterimage. His real body had already smashed its way through the void, and appeared in front of Shokun. It must be said that the body of his Star Colossus avatar was peerless. It could travel back and forth within the space. On top of that, Yishiwen had the stunning magical agility technique of the Devil Wings. And he had revealed his dreadful fighting prowess in its entirety at this moment. He raised his fist, and endless spirit energies instantly gathered on top of it. His fist then transformed into a big star, and smashed down upon Shokun. Bang! 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 Yi Zaiwen's fist pressure unceasingly pressed down. It seemed as if it would extinguish the world. All the defenses on Shokun's body got destroyed layer by layer. His sage-level armor also couldn't resist. It broke down into pieces, and the fragments began to swirl about in the air. Bang! It took a lot of time to describe. However, everything had happened at light speed. Then, Yi Zaiwen's fist struck Shokun's chest. Its speed was incomparably fast. Shokun didn't get the opportunity to react, and was hit by that fist. Bang! Shokun crashed onto the ground at the speed of a bullet. A several hundred feet wide and dozen feet deep crater was formed on the ground as a result. Shokun couldn't help but spout a mouthful of blood. The scene turned silent after this. In fact, there was a pin-drop silence. Everyone was left dumbstruck after they saw this scene before their eyes. How could the outcome be like this? They couldn't have imagined that the outcome could be like this. Shokun had gained the upper hand at first. He should have gone on a killing spree after making the breakthrough. However, the situation was reversed soon after that. Everyone felt as if they were having a roller coaster ride. It would rise to heaven one moment, and would fall down to hell the next. People with weak hearts might have been scared to death. Everyone looked at Yishiwen in a manner that made it seem as if they were looking at a monster. After all, even great sage Shokun had been wrecked by Yishiwen. Yishiwen seemed to have no limit. Yishiwen could always overpower Shokun no matter how much Shokun promoted his strength. This Yishiwen is too powerful. He is fully equipped with crushing strength. Ah! Shokun's roar came from inside the pit, and echoed in all directions. It shook the entire world. He had never suffered such a big humiliation. He hadn't even displayed his absolute strength when he had been overpowered by Yishiwen once again. Someone had crushed Shokun in front of everyone without using any tricks. This person had done so depending solely upon tyrannical strength. It was very difficult for Shokun to accept this. He had the biggest qualifications among these core disciples. He had already become famous like his peers Huang Wuji et al. However, he had been crushed by a trivial junior. This was a tight slap on his face. There was no way Yishiwen was going to give the opposite party a chance to respite. He stepped across a very long distance and attacked. Spirit energies present in the surroundings condensed into a big star and smashed down. The 10,000 Beasts Villa's people thought to rescue Shokun. However, they couldn't catch up with Yi Zaiwen's speed. After all, this was a fight of the Great Sage level. So, they didn't have any means to interfere in it. Suddenly, stunning rays of light emitted from inside the deep pit. Then, a crescent moon-shaped blade beam swept out. It rose whilst facing the wind, and became 10,000 feet long in an instant. It ripped apart the void, and swept down towards Yishiwen. "Brother Yi, be careful! It's a great sage tool!" Bai Jingwei instantly recognized this blade energy that carried terrifying power. However, he didn't need to remind Yishiwen since Yishiwen had also recognized it. It was an incomplete great sage tool. The number of great sage tools was very less as compared to the number of great sages. Many great sages still use sage tools since they didn't have enough resources to refine a great sage tool for themselves. Countless people would go crazy if they came across just an incomplete great sage tool. Shokun had only been in the half-step great sage realm until very recently. However, he still possessed an incomplete great sage tool. This fact was enough to prove how important he was for the 10,000 Beasts Villa. Yishiwen had fought with Chao Yuyu. That man had possessed an incomplete great sage tool. So, he had a lingering fear of the great sage tool's might. Both of his opponents possessed a great sage tool. However, the might displayed by Chao Yuyu's great sage tool was entirely different from the might revealed by Shokun's great sage tool. After all, the latter was a great sage initial stage expert. It must be mentioned that a great sage tool was equal to a great sage level divine tool. And only great sages could display its true might. Therefore, this great sage long blade displayed incredible might in Shokun's hands. It was incomplete. However, it still possessed infinite might. "Die! I don't know how you have made the breakthrough. However, everything will end now." A crazed look flashed on Shokun's face. He didn't look calm and composed at this time. He was just thinking about killing this vile ant. After all, he wanted everyone to know the end of an ant who had dared to challenge a great dragon. However, Yishiwen was unfazed by this. A big hand stretched out. Then, it soared to the sky, and rushed towards that incredible blade energy in order to grab it. In fact, a look of disdain had flashed on Yi Zaiwen's face. He wouldn't have dared to grab that great sage tool like this if this were his real body. After all, he would have received a huge wound on his hand. However, the situation was different now. After all, this was the Star Colossus avatar. It couldn't display its entire strength since there was a need of endless primary spirit dawn to make it work. However, the toughness of its body had always been there. And it was enough to grab a great sage tool with bare hands. Bang! Yi Zaiwen's big hand and that stunning blade energy collided with each other. However, it didn't lead to the stunning explosion that everyone had anticipated. This was because Yi Zaiwen's incredible big hand had grabbed that blade's tip. So, only a muffled noise had sounded instead. Moreover, this sound was produced when he had grabbed and extinguished the blade energy. "Is this what you had been relying upon? Die for me if it is so!" Yishiwen grinned and exposed a mouthful of pure white teeth. His expression had become ice-cold. Then, his figure ferociously moved and appeared inside the deep crater. To be continued. Chapter 618. Chapter 618 slaughters everyone. Yishiwen had appeared very suddenly. However, Shokun didn't remain idle either. He brandished his long blade, and it immediately produced blade beams. The space made a loud buzzing sound and trembled. This was a Tao sound. Every movement of a divine tool contains the presence of Tao principles once it arrives at great sage level, just like the experts of great sage level. Therefore, that vibration and the buzzing sound contained the traces of Tao. In fact, the experts of Hotian and Xiantian realms would have obtained big profits if they had seen it. Shokun had tyrannical cultivation. He contained Tao on his person to such an extent that he might become the embodiment of Tao and transform his very body into Tao. Such dreadful halos displayed incredible might under the control of an unimaginable blade technique. This was Shokun's blade technique which he had obtained himself. It was the technique of some ancient sect. And this blade technique had fallen into his hands after the decline of that sect. He had killed many enemies on several occasions depending solely upon this blade technique. However, this set of blade techniques was simply nothing in front of Yishiwen. It got instantly eradicated by him. "Star's chopping blade!" Shokun shouted. Then, his entire real elemental energy condensed and swept out through the hilt of the blade. It carried an abundance of killing intention for Yishiwen. This great sage tool completely withstood Shokun's fighting prowess. An ordinary sage tool would have exploded if Shokun had gone all out and poured out all his power. Therefore, even great sages couldn't display their entire power if they had mere sage tool in their hands. Only great sage tools could truly reveal the power of a great sage. Shokun possessed a great sage tool at present. So, his fighting prowess had gone up to 120%. However, Yishiwen was unfazed by this. He clenched his fist. The surroundings transformed into a boundless starry sky, and clashed down with the incoming blade attack. Bang! The dreadful collision set off a boundless storm. A feeble cracking sound was heard. It wasn't remarkable in the sound of the violent explosion. However, everyone had still heard it quite clearly. Everyone was left dumbstruck when they saw that the great sage long blade had cracked under the explosion. This is a great sage tool, and someone has grabbed it with bare hands. Moreover, this long blade has been shattered. What is his body made up of that he is so powerful? Especially, those people of the true martial university were left dumbstruck. They had also inquired about Yishiwen. So, they knew that Yishiwen ought to have cultivated a very powerful body technique. However, they hadn't anticipated that he would shatter that great sage-level long blade with bare hands. This was the result of cultivating a top-tier body technique. Shokun just felt a very large power reverberating. He felt as if a stunning giant power had poured into his hand whilst traveling through the long blade like a powerful spiral. In fact, the web between his thumb and forefinger had been ruptured by the vigorous impact. He had almost dropped his blade. He simply couldn't hold it anymore. One must know that this great sage long blade wasn't just tough. It could also dissolve the majority of power of an attack. However, his palm had still been ruptured. So, one could well imagine how massive this power must have been. He almost spouted blood fiercely. As the situation stood now, he didn't have an extremely high or lofty enthusiasm like earlier. He had lived for 1,000 years. So, it was obvious that not every opponent that he had encountered had been weaker than him. However, he was still alive and kicking while all of his opponents were dead. Moreover, he had now become a very famous person too. What had kept him alive all this time? It was naturally his wariness. He didn't forge ahead blindly. And he knew when he must retreat. However, he had big grievances in his heart now. He had never been bullied by a junior like this. Moreover, he had never suffered such a big defeat either. However, he didn't have any choice but to retreat now. After all, he could still look for an opportunity to attack and kill Yishiwen in the future if he retreated right now. He would have a fair chance to attack and kill Yishiwen as long as he escaped. His accumulation was very profound. Therefore, His cultivation would once again rise sharply within a short time as long as he got enough time. Great Sage Initial Stage wasn't a match for Yishiwen. But what about Great Sage Intermediate Stage or Great Sage Late Stage? It would be Yizaiwen's time of death when Shokun's cultivation would rise again. Shokun could eventually attack and kill Yishiwen if he escaped now. What would Yishiwen do at that time even if he possessed formidable strength? Moreover, Shokun understood that Yizaiwen's great strength obviously wasn't his own. It seemed that Yishiwen had paid a high price for making a breakthrough into the Great Sage realm. Moreover, he didn't believe that Yishiwen could produce Great Sage-level fighting prowess whenever he wanted. It would be impossible for Yishiwen to reveal such strength next time. Therefore, it'll be his time of death when I fight him again. Shokun's entire real elemental energy exploded. His figure was about to fly out of the crater. He had realized that he would be able to kill Yishiwen the next time as long as he retreated now. However, couldn't Yishiwen have realized this as well? Yishiwen sneered. He knew that he would be in big trouble if he allowed Shokun to get away. Yishiwen believed that killing Li Yifeng would be as simple as trampling an ant if he let him escape this time, and fought with him later instead. However, Shokun was different. His almost 1,000 years of accumulation had made his martial power profound to a dreadful extent. He had deliberately suppressed his martial power in the past since he didn't wish to make a breakthrough into the Great Sage realm. Otherwise, he could make successive breakthroughs within a short time as long as he was willing. And Yishiwen wouldn't be able to suppress him if that happened. In fact, he might have to make Ling Fei go into action in that case. And Yishiwen didn't want that to happen. You want to escape? I won't let you leave this place today, Yishiwen sneered. Countless starlights erupted from his palm. They then weaved a huge net of starlight and swept towards Shokun to shroud him. It was the 1,000 Stars Tyrant Palm. Yizaiwen's grasp of the 1,000 Stars Tyrant Palm wasn't a bit inferior to his understanding of the fire cloud's falling sky hand. It could be said that any martial technique wasn't an issue for him as long as he had enough spirit energies. Shokun struggled to break free. He wanted to escape from that huge star net. However, Yizaiwen's movement was very fast. He obviously wasn't going to let him do so. Consequently, Shokun immediately got shrouded by that net. This day will be your death anniversary next year! Yizaiwen's martial power erupted in its entirety. And that huge star net started getting tighter and tighter as a result. Consequently, Shokun got completely shrouded by it soon after. Bang! 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 That huge star net became tighter. Violent explosions occurred unceasingly on Shokun's body whenever the starlights of that huge star net touched it. Blood splashed out, and he screamed unceasingly. However, it was useless to struggle. After all, he couldn't set himself free from that net no matter how much he tried. Damn it! How is this possible? Li Yifeng had been defeated by Bai Jingwei by now. He was a legendary expert. However, Bai Jingwei had accumulated immense anger, and had vented that anger at this time. Li Yifeng's strength was slightly weaker than that of Bai Jingwei. However, the disparity seemed greater at this time. Li Yifeng became scared to death when he saw Shokun screaming endlessly. The great sage Shokun, whom he considered as his biggest support, was now screaming and struggling like a trapped beast. Therefore, Li Yifeng had become scared to death when he had seen this scene. The 10,000 Beasts Villa withdraws from the competition this time, Yishiwen coldly said. Then, a palm suddenly smashed down. Shokun, who had been screaming endlessly, was struck by this palm, and transformed into blood fog. He hadn't had any power to protect himself. This blood fog had covered the entire sky. However, it soon got absorbed by Emo. That great sage Longblade also got absorbed along with the blood fog. Ha ha ha! Yishiwen, it's great! Absorbing the blood essence of this great sage has led to a new beginning. I'm about to make a breakthrough and become a great sage tool myself. Emo shouted in excitement. He had been waiting for this day since a very long time. However, this situation would be completely different if he could get the support of an intact Great Sage Tool. Yi Shiwen had already caught a Great Sage Tool twice with bare hands. His body was tough enough. However, he had been in a difficult situation the last time he had dealt with a Great Sage Tool. So, it would save him a lot of trouble if he also had a Great Sage Tool. After all, blood had splashed out from his hand when he had grabbed the demon-inscribed tablet. However, he hadn't had any other way at that time. So, he had been forced to withstand it with clenched teeth back then. Yemo submerged into the depths of the heavenly source mirror as soon as he was done talking. He then began the closed-door training to make a breakthrough and become a Great Sage Tool. Only Yemo was like this among all the divine tools that Yi Shiwen had seen so far. He had never heard of any other divine tool evolving through such a method. Let's go quickly. This man is extremely ferocious. We must escape quickly. Otherwise, I'm afraid that all of us will die here. Some people's courage suddenly crumbled when they saw that Shokun had died in Yi Zaiwen's hands. So, they quickly turned around to escape. Let's escape quickly. Wait until we gather even more tyrannical experts. Then, we'll come back and kill this monster. Run quickly! The disciples of the 10,000 Beasts Villa and the Xianyuan Palace Hall finally panicked. Each of them was powerful enough to take charge of a region. The situations in which they would be perturbed had been quite rare up until now. However, they couldn't keep calm when they saw that Shokun had been killed on the spot. They were extremely close to death at this time. In fact, they might die at any time. True Martial University, you are a sworn enemy of our Xianyuan Palace as well as the 10,000 Beasts Villa from now on. These disciples of the 10,000 Beasts Villa and the Xianyuan Palace Hall wanted to escape. However, how could Bai Jingwei and the others allow them to do so? Bai Jingwei and the others simply didn't care about these empty threats. Li Feng shouted, and let out a sonic boom. The entire horizon trembled under the terrifying fluctuations. He set himself free from Bai Jingwei's grip in one fell swoop, turned around, and began to escape. However, a big hand suddenly appeared in the sky. It then smashed down towards him, and grabbed him. Bang! Li Feng didn't have the power to defend himself. So, he got crushed on the spot. Shokun and Li Feng had been killed by Yi Shiwen. The rest of the people wanted to escape. However, they couldn't escape from the encirclement of Yi Shiwen and the others. Soon, all of them got slaughtered one by one. Everyone. Yi Shiwen descended from the sky. He had quietly switched the body of the Star Colossus avatar with his real body, and returned to the Sage Great Perfection realm. These people have been executed. So, I would like to bid farewell. He had burnt more than 400 million primary spirit dawn in killing Shokun. However, he had also obtained many benefits. After all, Yemo would soon make a breakthrough and become a Great Sage Tool. Basically, it wasn't a deal of loss as far as he was concerned. To be continued. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.